Amen. One of my favorite verses in Scripture is so funny. Whenever I do this class or teach on fermented food, I always think of, well, there's two scriptures I think of. There's Isaiah 7. I can't remember the verse, but it's Isaiah chapter 7. And it says, curds and honey. It's a prophecy about the coming Messiah. And it says, curds and honey will he eat until he is old enough to distinguish good from evil. And curds, though, as we all know, that must be a reference to yogurt, kefir, fermented foods. Fermented foods were the mainstay of ancient cultures. I'm sure, without a doubt, it's what kept them healthy. Number one, it was practical for preservation. I mean, what do you do when cows give gallons and gallons of milk and goats give gallons of milk and you have no refrigeration? Well, you store it and it naturally ferments and cultures. And so they would mix these with honey and sweeteners and eat them. But not only that, wine, fermented grape juice. Now, our concept of wine is very sweet, very high alcohol content, but naturally fermented grapes and fruits and vegetables are very, very delicious for it. In fact, it's more like the fermented juices that we do with the kefir cultures and things like that. Won't make you drunk, won't make you sick, won't make you drunk, but just very, very good for you. I guess if you consumed a lot, it would. But my other favorite scripture that I always think about is 1 John 4:4, and it says, and you all know this verse probably, he who lives in you is greater than he that is in the world. He that is in you is greater than he that is in the world. And of course that's, and I don't want to, take this totally out of context, but it's talking, of course, about the presence of the Holy Spirit in us is greater than the spirits that are in the world. But I cannot help but think of the good bacteria that lives within us is greater than all this bacteria that lives in the world. In fact, I found a statistic. It says in our intestines live about 10 trillion bacteria. That is more, there's more bacteria in us and on us than people in the whole world. That's a lot of organisms. And they play a very, very, very significant role. I'm always very concerned when I see people, and I think there's times and places to sanitize your hands. Believe me, I just got back from a trip with my daughter to New York City, and every time we went on the subway, I was like, I'd really like to wash my hands before I eat something. So I understand that, but I am concerned about the constant using hand sanitizers and sanitizing and disinfecting everything that we tend to do. And of course, then the heavy use of antibiotics that is just destroying our good bacteria, the soaps and antibacterial soaps that we use on our skin, taking away the good bacteria that's supposed to be there that naturally help fight off disease-causing bacteria that we come in contact with. So I just always think of that these organisms that live in our gut are so, so important. If you have your handout, if you want to flip to the last page, I just want to call your attention to it. And some of you may have read it. This is the article that was in my last newsletter. But you may want to, reread this article when you get home. It's got some of the nutritional benefits. But the nutritional benefits of reestablishing this gut bacteria are actually limitless. I mean, it's just amazing, all the things that they do. Not only do they produce and help digest the food that you're fermenting, but they even produce digestive enzymes in your body. They help you absorb nutrients by breaking down this food. Yogurt produces something called lactoferrin that helps you absorb iron in your gut. The action of this, the lactic acid bacteria and those organisms in your gut actually break down undigested fiber, which is high in your grains and your fruits and vegetables. Break those down in your gut, producing B vitamins in your gut. And those B vitamins are absorbed into your body through your gut, without which, even if you ate the best diet, you could not get enough B vitamins. So this is a relationship that is, to me, just shows a created design. So we are fearfully and wonderfully made. Also, the organisms that live in your gut and that you ingest when you eat fermented foods, they actually promote the movement of your bowels. So if someone struggles with constipation, of course, my first answer is you need to be grinding your grain and making your bread and eating whole grains, and that would be eliminated. But some people, that may not happen, so maybe a good probiotic or the fermented foods would be an answer to that. Interestingly enough, when you ferment these foods, though they're acidic, the organisms actually regulate the production of acid in your stomach. So if you're a low acid producer, you're going to have a harder time digesting proteins and foods that require acid to be digested. So these organisms actually will help you produce more acid. If you're an over-acid producer, then these organisms will actually reduce the acid production. Can be very, very significant help for those of you that struggle with acid reflux. This is a big issue. And surprisingly enough, a lot of people think acid reflux is an overproduction of acid, but sometimes it's actually an underproduction of acid, and so the stomach is kind of churning even more to try to get this food digested, and it shoots it back up. And that fluid, that chyme is acidic, but it's almost brought on by a low acid production. So these are things. For diabetics, the foods that are fermented naturally with your lactic acid forming bacteria, the sugars are broken down. And if the sugars are broken down in these, like grapes or apples or even cabbage, then that's going to put less demand on the production of insulin, and so your pancreas is going to find support there. One other thing that I want to call your attention to is if you have a weakened digestive system, say someone that is sick, someone that has cancer, someone going through surgery or chemotherapy and radiation, digestion is very, very stressed and limited. So the fermented foods, because they're already digested, are a great, great boon to someone going through those types of issues. One thing I want to call your attention to, much doesn't help much. Write that down. Much doesn't help much. Consuming a mound of yogurt one day and not any for a week is not the best plan. You want 1 or 2 tablespoons of sauerkraut with your breakfast in the morning, or a cup of yogurt. And that's the thing, I'm so excited about the food that Caleb has made for you. Most of you know about yogurt and kefir, and probably a lot of you have been doing smoothies, you know, in a muffin in the morning for breakfast. But we need to start spreading this out throughout the day and finding other ways to eat and enjoy these very, very, very nutritious foods. So the best way is to eat small quantities every day, all right? So without further ado, I want to... Hello, Caleb. I want to introduce you to Caleb Becker, and he is going to show us how to make some amazing foods. Are you ready? Ready. So, anybody have any questions before we get started? Okay.
Would putting honey in your kefir, I know honey's like antibiotic, is that going to affect?
Okay. Her question is, putting honey in the kefir, is that going to affect the bacteria that is there? I have to tell you, I probably need to do a little more research on it. I know that some friends of ours that sell the kefir, they don't use honey in it because they say it inhibits the growth of the bacteria. From my research over the years, and according to Isaiah 7, it says curds and honey. Did he eat? Honey does have antibacterial properties, but it also tends to stimulate the growth of good bacteria. But I do know you don't want to use it in culturing your things. You don't want to put it in there because I think that it would inhibit. I don't know that squeezing a little honey would kill the bacteria, you know, by the time you consume it. I just don't know. But I probably do need, that's a very, very good question. But I know Caleb has avoided using honey. And our friends that, some of y'all buy the kefir from Ancient Awakenings, yeah.
Like you said, in the culturing, I wouldn't use any honey.
Yeah.
And
okay.
it really, in culturing, I don't use any sugars except for, you know,
what? Yeah, and you
what's
really shouldn't.
naturally in there, except for, you know, some other, you know, kombuchas and some teas and stuff, or soy, nut milks, stuff like that may need a little extra sugar added to them to ferment properly. But
okay, so we've got a full class for you, so we're going to get started. You ready?
All right. Good morning. How's everybody? All right. I guess Mom covered all the kind of why we should eat these fermented foods. So now I'm going to hopefully try to cover some, just some recipes that we've come up with over the years and how to use these fermented foods with them so that you can work them into your diet every day. Because a lot of people are a little discouraged about eating fermented foods. I couldn't, get some people around here interested in the funky smelling stuff I had growing back here, but I'm gonna try to show y'all some ways to make it a little more friendly for your family, and
And just see the variety. I mean, I don't know if you've looked at the handout. I mean, he's going to make butter for you from fermented cream. We've got some dip from strained yogurt. We're going to make smoothie. And then, of course, the fermented vegetables that we're going to mix with some salads and things like that. You're going to be surprised. How many of y'all hate sauerkraut? Anybody? I mean, you just really don't like it. Wait till you taste the sauerkraut that is naturally fermented. I mean, it's nothing like the limp stuff that you buy in the store.
And most of the stuff
we have a 2-bite rule, okay? Just kidding.
Most of the stuff you're going to buy in the store, unless you really go and look, is not traditionally fermented anymore. It's salted and vinegar and brined and completely, kills everything that ever was in it. So.
And then pasteurized, even if it was.
And then canned fermented and cooked, and so it'll stay on the shelf for 100 and something years.
And we're very excited about our new fermentation crocks. They make it so easy. I mean, when you see Caleb do it, grate it up, pack it in there, come back in a couple of weeks, and you've got it. And it just sits out at room temperature. So you're going to love, love, love this. So, all right, you ready to make bread? Do you need my help?
Yeah.
Okay.
First, we're going to start off with a dark rye bread, using some cocoa and some coffee. It's like a pumpernickel, basically.
Actually, I don't think I need a apron that much.
I've also, we normally carry some yogurt strainers. We're actually out of stock of them right now. They were backordered on us, but you can put yogurt into the strainers, strain them down, get a thicker consistency, sour cream, cream cheese consistency out of your cultured yogurt, so you can get a good probiotic cultured, sour creams and dips and stuff. But why I'm making this bread is I'm actually going to use the whey from the strained yogurt that we're going to make a dill dip to go on top of the bread. But I'm using the whey from that strained yogurt to put in the bread.
So the strainer will hold a 32-ounce container, your big container of yogurt that you buy in the store, and we just put it in here, and we already took the yogurt out because we made the dip yesterday. The dip mixes that we use are best if they're allowed to sit overnight. So what drains off is your whey. Okay, I don't know if you can look. Oh, there we go. Oh, you can't really see it that well. But anyway, I'll measure out the liquid. How much whey do you need?
A cup. I've got a cup of water and a cup of coffee in the other measuring cup already.
So this is our whey. So don't get rid of this. This is actually very, very good for you.
You can use that to put in drinks, smoothies.
Oh, you're doing a double,
put in your
right?
breads. It adds such a nice flavor to your breads. It kind of gives it that sourdough kind of flavor. Makes it real soft and really gives it some extra rising power.
So you can add this, use this in place of water in any recipe, any bread recipe. Okay, so just want to encourage you to do that, not throw that down the drain. Well, it has protein. Oh yes, what is so good about whey? It drains off. It's the liquid that comes out. It does have protein. In fact, whey protein. There's been a lot of research done on whey protein helping with the detrimental effects of chemotherapy and radiation. Google it. Just Google whey protein. It's pretty from the antioxidants. It's the precursor. Your proteins found in whey are the precursors to the most powerful antioxidant. It's kind of like the antioxidant of antioxidants. It's called glutathione. The proteins, the amino acids that are in whey, and that's one of the only real food sources of cysteine and the amino acids that are the precursors for your body to utilize to make glutathione. And which, like I said, glutathione is kind of the antioxidant of antioxidants. Research done on cancer patients, they have found people diagnosed with cancer, majority of them very low in glutathione. So glutathione, and if you try to take glutathione just as a supplement, and there are supplement companies that make glutathione, it's actually broken down in your digestive system. So what you need to eat and be ingesting are the building blocks so that your body can make it. So that's one of the big deals with whey, is it's a source of those amino acids. So it's very, very, very good for you. There's others, and I'm just drawing a complete blank. I'm sorry.
From what I've read, that it's not denatured.
Right, and the whey, if eating it like this, of course, it's not denatured. Yes. Oh, golly. How long does the whey keep once you drain it off? I've never had it go bad. It just, I mean, yes.
It'll get a little stronger in flavor, but that's the whole thing about a lot of these foods, is that when you control fermentation and you're controlling it how it goes bad. So it's already gone bad in a way, but you just controlled the way it went. So it's going to store for a very long time.
You controlled it as opposed to rotting.
Right.
You've preserved it with organisms. Does that make sense? And so you're going to find that these foods really, really don't spoil. Now, your yogurt and kefir and things like that, left inoculated more, then the organisms will eventually eat all the food that's there and they'll die. So there is a shelf life there, but it actually spoiling, it's not going to spoil. Okay. So, but it's 60 to 90 days, I think, is on your kefir. Isn't that what Ancient Awakening says? Isn't it like 30 or 60 days, I want to say, that the organisms are alive? I'd have to check that. But so you're not going to...
To answer your question, this is a jar of kefir that has been sitting on my workbench back there for about 8 months now. Not refrigerated. It hasn't molded. Probably doesn't taste great. You wouldn't want to make smoothies and stuff out of it.
It is starting to...
It's separated.
It's puffed up the lid here, so it's producing some gas, but it's, it's not rotting. It just might not, it might be a little acidic tasting. So.
But you could use it for buttermilk and cooking. Perfectly fine. And that was unrefrigerated. So.
All right, we ready to mix this up?
Go ahead. No, it's fine. Go ahead. Yes.
Yeah, some kefirs are more sour than others. Some of it's going to depend on what organisms actually grow, kind of take off. The temperature we're finding that you incubate it at makes a bigger difference, and how long you let it go. How long before you refrigerate it, that you let it incubate, then that's going to affect the acidity and the tartness of it.
This is going to be very basic, introductory. We're only working with some powdered starters. We're not working with any kefir grains or anything like that. That's a whole nother level of maintaining, and if you're using more of the starter, or if you use more, than the recommended amount to start your next batch and stuff, it can cause it to be, much stronger, much sour.
All right, you ready to mix up your bread?
We're gonna mix up some bread.
the rye bread we're going to start with, because he actually wants to serve this in the class, so it's on the second page of your handout. So if you want to just flip over, it actually is kind of a modified version of, there's a dark Russian rye bread recipe in my red cookbook. If those of you that are new and don't have my red cookbook, I really recommend. This is just the basic. So the dark Russian rye bread is in here. Caleb kind of adjusted he didn't kind of, he did. He adjusted the recipe to go in the bread machine. So that's what we're working on today.
Somebody did. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
Somebody much smarter than me.
Nah.
And there she is.
Older sister, spoken like a champ. Okay, can I start putting all these liquids in?
Sure.
As with any bread recipe, you're just going to add your liquids. This was warm at one time. I think it's still warm.
It'll be all right.
Okay, so this was our water and coffee mixed together. Wasn't it water and coffee?
Yeah,
and then,
a cup of each.
Yes, we are doing a double recipe, so because we wanted everybody to have a good bit. And then that's your whey. And of course, you certainly could do this with just water and coffee, but the whey really gives it the extra flavor. Okay, and then our oil and honey. Give me a spoonula.
Will that work?
And anytime you're mixing a bread dough, you're going to do it pretty much all your liquids, everything but your flour and yeast. It's going to kill some of the organisms, sure, but you're mostly using it for flavor and the enhancement that it does to the dough. It really does make a softer dough. And then, of course, those proteins. Your proteins aren't broken down by heat. So.
Plus, I'm trying to use all of.
Why throw that good stuff out?
Because I drained the yogurt to make my dip that's going to go on the bread, and then I'm left with the whey, so the whey is going to go in the bread. So I'm just trying to use everything as I make it.
This is some lecithin and gluten we're going to add here. Our cocoa, which is what makes your dark Russian rye bread.
That's unsweetened.
Unsweetened baker's cocoa. And then our caraway seeds, which those of you that maybe think you don't like rye, the distinctive flavor of rye bread is caraway seeds. Rye flour, I mean, it of course has a flavor to it, but it's not the strong flavor that you're thinking. Rye actually makes very good brownies and cakes and things like that. It builds up more like a soft wheat. I don't know if I'm in the, there we go. Of course, with the kitchen assistant, I'm going to add most of my flour till it starts kind of crawling up the side of the bowl here. Now I'll add my yeast. Uh-oh, I forgot my salt. I should have put that in.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Huh?
Let's not do that.
No.
Bread is not good without salt.
We are the salt of the earth, and if you've ever made bread without salt, you will know why we're the salt of the earth. So salt's a good thing. Real salt, good salt, that's not been messed up by production, is wonderful for you. And if you don't know what I mean by that, naturally mined mineral salt. I'll go get a container. Would you get me a bag? If your salt doesn't clump, is that right? Then it's probably been heat treated. If it's white, it's had all the minerals stripped out of it, bleached, and some brands of salt even add sugar. I'm like, really? Whatever.
We have our video on.
Yeah, in fact, we had a representative from Real Salt come and do a presentation. You can just pass it around. But naturally mined mineral salt is actually good for you. Okay, as with any bread making, we're going to see if we've got enough flour here by checking it. Now, let me give you a little hint when making rye bread. Rye grain does not have as much gluten content as your wheat. And so you want to make sure you do not over-knead this. Wheat would be nearly impossible to over-knead the gluten. And what I mean by over-kneading is you're going to get a breakdown of the gluten. Instead of it developing the gluten more, it gets to that point where it develops it, and then it breaks it down, and the dough will actually go from smooth and elastic to gooey and slimy again. So you don't want to over-knead it. So the most you're probably going to knead your rye bread is about, sorry, I'm backwards, is about 5 minutes. This is already looking pretty good here. And see how the dough pulls away from the side of the bowl and is going around the roller? That means you have enough flour. So though my recipe called for more flour than I've actually needed, that's a way with this mixer to check to see how much flour you need in the recipe. So there's our rye bread. And now I think Caleb's going to make some muffins for you while this kneads. Any questions on the rye bread? Yes, ma'am. Hang on. Hang on, I can't hear you at all. Yes, even when you do a double, you're probably only going to need for about 5 minutes or so, okay? Well, by hand, just whenever it gets smooth and elastic, you want to stop. It'd be hard-pressed to over-knead dough if you're kneading by hand. Problem with the mixer, normally you knead your dough for 10 or 12 minutes, so you set the timer or you just let it knead, you walk away, you don't pay attention to it. So that's the thing with spelt and rye and your low-gluten grains. You just don't want to knead them 10 or 12 minutes, 5 or 6 minutes at the most, okay? I actually think this is looking pretty ready. When that roller starts arm starts really working. But see how the dough is, it's really nice and smooth looking. Put it back. Oh, where it was. Okay, he was on me. I'm fidgeting with him over there. So anyway, so there's our dough kneading, and it really, really is almost there. So I'm going to just let it knead just a few more minutes. I hope I didn't get too much flour in that, Caleb, with yakking. I said I hope I didn't get too much flour in that. Okay, you ready for muffins now? I would, kneading in the bread machine, I would change the kneading time down to about 5 to 6 minutes as well. You want me to add a little more water? I think I've gotten this a little stiff, so I'm going to add
I
just
have my
a
microphone off. Her question was, what was another use for the whey? And I said, make smoothies out of it. Add it to some of your smoothies. It's a great source of protein, like you said. I said, just take a shot of it. You can sweeten it up just a little bit. It's not, you won't find that it's, yeah.
You can use it as part of your liquid in pancakes. I mean, it really, really, I mean, or as all of your liquid, really, in pancakes or muffins, you can just use the whey. So, all right. Now I may have gotten it too loose. What would you do without me? Don't answer that. Okay.
What do you think?
I think it's good. Okay, muffins.
Yes. Her question was bacteria destroyed by heating and cooking? Some of it, yes.
Some are and some aren't. Some are a little hardier, more resistant to cooking temperatures, and some aren't. When you're making yogurt and things like that, you don't want the milk temperature to go over 115, or you won't get a good growth of the organisms. But I know that the probiotic that we sell, the Ferm Plus, according to the manufacturers, it can actually, some of the organisms can withstand heat. You can even sprinkle it over soup and mix it in and eat it like that. But you've got to remember, you know, even though you're cooking bread at like 400 or 350 degrees, bread is done at 180, the internal temperature. You know, it's just like that steak. You may throw a steak on a 500-degree grill, but you don't bring the temperature of the meat up to 500 degrees. But of course, even at 180, that is going to destroy some of the organisms there. But the action of those organisms in the food, especially if like a sourdough bread or grains that you let ferment over days, it's breaking those things down. So it's doing good things for you. So it's kind of like with me, excuse me, it's kind of like eating cooked vegetables or raw vegetables. Well, there's a place for both. You know, so that's kind of my philosophy with using the sourdough starters to cook with, the yeast to cook with. I mean, you kill those organisms, yet they're good and do good things in your body. Does that answer that question? Okay. All right, muffins.
I'm actually going to make butter first, because I need the buttermilk from the butter.
Oh, I thought we already had it.
Well, we do, but they don't.
Huh?
You need to get the buttermilk first before you can make the muffins. So.
Oh, okay. All right, so now he's going to show you how to make the fermented cultured butter. You got to work backwards. You okay with that?
Yeah.
I know. It's.
Hey, I should be really good at that, actually, shouldn't I?
Yeah. No comment. I will.
You can be nice.
I'm going to be nice.
All right. Here's what I got. This is 2 pints worth of heavy cream that I have cultured with the veggie culture.
Which is, here's the product. Did you put this recipe in there?
No, because the recipe is in the
veggie
instructions
starter.
for the veggie starter.
Okay.
And it should be in parentheses in the recipe. It says follow instructions for the wilderness family. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, the veggie starter. So this will tell you how to do what he's doing, but you're going to explain.
I will explain, but the instructions are in there. I'm sorry? How old is the cream? You will let it. You take, like I said, this is 2 pints of cream, so it's roughly a quart. You'll use 2 of the packets of the starter, the veggie starter.
So 1 package per pint. Okay.
Add it, shake it up. I came back about an hour later, shook it up again just to make sure it dissolved really good. And then I let it culture and ferment for about 30 hours at room temperature. Okay. Then once it's, and I don't know if you can see, but it is thickened to the point where, you know, I'm going to need to scoop it out of here with a spatula, but it's thickened up quite a bit. But then you want to take it, put it into the refrigerator, and let it ripen for 2 to 3 days after it's cultured.
I don't know what he used, but you either, you know,
I used organic.
or you always, whether you do organic or not, do organic cream. Any of your fat things, because your toxins are stored in fat. And so I am very, very particular about just spending the extra money and getting organic creams. Of course, those of you that maybe do raw milk, pull your cream off of that. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Even better.
Yeah. I mean, think about the question you just asked. Will it work with that? That's what they did for thousands of years before they started
It works
pasteurization.
even better, and the flavor is amazing. If you can get it. No, you have to use cream to make butter.
Yes, you have to use cream to make butter.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can whip and whip and whip milk all day, and it's not going to make butter.
No, you have to have cream to make butter. All right, you must have cream.
I heard your question was, then you wouldn't have to use the culture. Well, you can make butter without culture. That's fine. But this is cultured butter, so even better.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're getting the benefit of the good bacteria, which your raw cream is going to have some organisms in there. Those organisms naturally occur in your raw milk. It's interesting because do you know the white film that is on like grapes and plums and that is yeast. On your fruit, that white film is your yeast, your fermenting yeast. So that's why really those fruits, you probably all had some grapes that, wow, that was a little fermented, that little last one that, you know, sat on the table maybe that somebody didn't eat. And that's the natural fermentation process of those organisms that naturally occur. That white film that's on things like cabbage, what are some other plants you might see it on, broccoli, that's your lactic acid fermenting organisms. So your fruit kingdom is kind of where your yeast comes from. The low, any plant that grows low to the ground will have your lactic acid fermenting organisms. So the cows eating the grass, they actually inoculate into the milk naturally those lactic acid organisms. So they naturally occur in your milk, your raw milk in your dairy. Of course, the pasteurization is going to kill those. So, but you still will probably want to inoculate even your raw milk with organisms so that you make sure you get the organisms that you want growing there, okay? And that you don't get a balance of some over another. Does that make sense? Okay, you ready?
All right.
Sorry.
Some of y'all saw the consistency while I was scooping this in here, but it is thickened up quite a bit.
Isn't that beautiful? No, this is the cream. He's fixing to whip it into butter, and you'll see. It's going to be so amazing.
It has to be cream.
The cream. Has to be the cream.
The cream? Sure. I mean, you could use this as
Could you?
like a creme fraiche, basically is what it is. Then I'm going to whip it into, it's going to go through a few stages. It's going to go through a whipped cream and then a very stiff whipped cream, and then all of a sudden it's going to separate into butter.
That's like very delicious, just like that. So,
Did you just try some?
I just licked a little off there because I really like whipped cream, but and I didn't double dip, so you're all right.
Okay.
Oops. Oh well.
So yeah, I mean, you could use this for all kinds of stuff.
Where is your butter?
My butter's over there.
Okay.
Sure, you sure could. I found that the veggie starter was not as strong and tart as the, say, kefir starter.
You're going to remember there are different organisms in different products. You know, like yogurt. I always thought kefir was just liquid yogurt. Well, it couldn't be. If it were the same organisms, it would solidify the curd. So there are different organisms that that make kefir, that make yogurt, that make vegetables. So that's probably why you're not getting quite as acid a product with the veggie culture that you would, say, with a kefir or a yogurt.
You can actually have different flavors of butter depending on the culture.
Yes,
Sure.
there's different strains of sourdough, I've learned, which we're working on sourdough class next. That may be the fall. But there are actually different strains. That's why San Francisco sourdough is known as a real tart, you know, very lively sourdough bread. It's because the organisms that are natural to that habitat make that culture that way. So there's a book I read years ago. It's called Sourdough International. And this guy was he was way out there with sourdough. And he traveled all around the world, ancient bakeries, archaeological digs, and captured organisms from those areas. Russian sourdough has a different flavor, like I said. So the different organisms are going to make the different flavors. So here's the butter that he made that he's going to serve with the muffins. Do you want me to go ahead and mix up the muffins, or do they need? Oh no, they need to see that. Okay. All right, go ahead. Don't let me talk too much. What you need?
All right. Now, I'm going to tell you, if you do it, you can do it in a blender. You just can't do as large amounts that I'm doing today. That's why I'm doing it. And this is the double whisk bowl for the assistant kitchen mixer. I'm going to keep a paper plate on hand over here to use as a lid, because once it separates into butter, all of a sudden it'll start kind of splashing around on you. So.
And you can make butter out of cream that's not cultured. That's called sweet cream butter. I mean, that's what it is. And you can do it in a blender. If you
or if you got some kids that need to sit in timeout, you can sit there and give them a mason jar, and they can sit there and shake and shake and shake and shake.
There you go.
And they can't come out till it makes butter, so that may work too.
Why didn't I know that years ago?
We were too busy in the garden picking stupid tomatoes.
There, yeah.
Oh, I knew she was going to bring up the tomatoes again. Man, I'll never live that down. Oh, she who now has a garden and chickens and.
Yes.
I would think. Oh yeah. I would think your cultured butters would keep longer. Yeah.
Because it's converted a lot of that sugar. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember, fermentation is a method of preservation. So, yeah, the answer probably is going to be yes. How much longer? I'm not really sure.
All
okay,
right.
hit it, babe.
Here we go. I'm going to start out on a lower speed.
Which this is the double whisk bowl attachment that comes with this mixer, okay?
And like I said, it's going to go through a couple stages. It's going to stay like this for a little while, then it's going to thicken up. It's going to turn to whipped cream, which you can use as cultured whipped cream, pancakes and whatever you want.
The flavor is very mild here. Like when I taste it,
That's what I said.
I
found the veggie starter was milder in flavor than the kefir starter was. So that's why I used that one. I would normally have the top on it right now, but I'm trying to show you guys.
Oh yeah, hello. Maybe I did need an apron. Y'all are the splash section. Those of y'all are sitting up front.
All right, as you can see, it's already kind of a loose, whipped cream right now. I'm going to go ahead and put the lid on it, though, because it's going to separate in just a few minutes.
And when you're whipping, how many have ever whipped your whipped cream too long? And you went, oh, I now have butter. And it's that fast. That breaking point is like, wow, right there.
Now, it is important after you culture this cream, if you want to make butter, put it in the refrigerator and cool it for a little while, or it just doesn't seem to whip into butter as well.
And you're going to see the cream is going to solidify, and the liquid is going to come out. Guess what that liquid is called? Buttermilk. Yes.
You can see right now we're at that kind of thick whipped cream stage.
I I'll pass on that. It looks good, though.
All right. So, we're going to cap that back off, and it shouldn't take but just a few more minutes.
I bet you need a bowl, don't you?
I did. And there we are. Why is the sky blue? Why is the grass green?
Oh, I would so never gotten away with that answer. What if they forgot the footballs?
The cream naturally has that kind of rich yellow color.
Vitamin A, the carotene. There you go. And I think when you pull the liquid off, that it just gets concentrated more. Yeah, coloring. It is naturally. That was white. Yes.
All right. Now I'm going to pour off what is the buttermilk now, and we're going to use this in our muffins as buttermilk.
And he's straining it so that the little lumps of butter will be, there's still a little particles that he can take those out and use them. But yeah, it just concentrates the color when you pull out, when the liquid comes off. Raw milk is a wonderful source of vitamin A and D. When you see milk in the store that says vitamin A and D fortified, guess why they had to fortify it? The process that it went through destroyed those natural vitamins.
Okay, now I'm going to put this on here for a few more minutes. It's not splashing as much. Whip it a little bit more, and then you can either leave it as unsalted butter. I like to add just a little bit of salt to it because I like salted butter. Right.
Yeah.
I don't. No, you don't when it's cultured. And the reason for that is the souring. No.
Do you need the strainer?
I don't find that you need to as much. I keep mine in the refrigerator anyway, and it is preserving it with the cultures in it anyway. So. All right, the last little bit of buttermilk on there now. I'm going to add a little bit of salt to it. There is a certain level of salt, which I've found is, from whatever it is, 5%. If you go above 5%, you'll start harming bacteria growth. What?
He's got a jar, he's asking.
There we are. So we can set that aside.
Okay.
I'll take that.
Yep.
Now I have made some ahead of time that we're actually going to serve on the muffins. Ashley has it over there. So, but I wanted to show you guys how to extract the buttermilk that we're going to be using in the muffins. Yes, ma'am. The question was, can you culture butter that is already made?
I mean, you could probably certainly add, probiotic powder or something to butter,
Yeah.
just like you can to your smoothies and stuff like that. I don't know.
without, you know, having a real high sugar content in the butter. It's been separated. It's mostly fat. It absorbing and being able to break down and do its thing. I'm not real sure.
This looks really beautiful. And I'm surprised that, I know what you're talking about, how you, like with uncultured butter, you have to really press, you have to work it and press that, the liquid out. I think the whipping, yes, I think the whipping bowl, I think whipping that out separates that liquid out a lot easier.
Yeah, I did.
This is really, really pretty. I am ready to have a muffin with butter. Y'all are like, yeah, me too.
This is our rye dough
that he just put in a warm oven for just a little bit to let it rise. And now we're going to actually shape it into some baguette loaves. And one recipe will make 3 baguettes, so we're going to make 6 baguettes since this was a double recipe. And make some nice rounds. Wow, wow, wow. This is so pretty. I don't want to waste not even one little bite.
Do you need some flour? Shape these. Okay. Was there any left over?
Do what? No. We were just, trying to speed it up because he really wants to serve. He wanted to make it fresh in the class and serve that to you warm at the end. So we're just going to speed it up because now when we shape it, it'll have to rise again. So.
Okay. Here.
Man. We just got back from New York, so I came home and my daughter and I spent 10 days there. She was dancing, and then we stayed some extra days, and we walked literally all over the city, from one end of Manhattan to the other, and even took a trip over to Hoboken, New Jersey. But to Carlos's Bakery, which we waited in line. Do y'all know who Carlos Bakery? It's not Carlos, she kept saying Carlos. So anyway, but we got to go in, and I forgot what I was going to tell you. Oh, so I came home and watched all these movies that were filmed in New York, and one of my all-time favorites is Kate and Leopold. How many of y'all have seen that movie? So cute. And she, of course, rooks him into being the spokesperson for this margarine. And he goes, soft creamery butter, you know, and it's just, and then when he finally tastes the margarine, he goes, this tastes like saddle soap. And she's like, I don't care, just do the commercial. And he goes, I can't, if you've never had whipped creamery butter. And I'm like, so I'm thinking of this as I'm dipping this out. I'm like, this is what he was talking about. This stuff is delicious.
All right. Now, with our butter, we sell these pretty little butter bells that you can keep on your table. You put a little water in the bottom. It'll keep it from souring and all that. So yesterday I filled one of these up, and as you can see, we have
got
been
into it.
dipping into it throughout the day yesterday. Yes, ma'am.
You mean on the butter? Like I said, again, I just don't think it's going to spoil. I don't know.
How good is how long is the bacteria good in it still? Yeah.
Well, just make
do half a pint.
Just do a pint at a time. This was 2 pints, so just do a pint. One package of your culture does a pint. I would think. I mean, just like I said, yogurt doesn't spoil. You know, buttermilk doesn't spoil.
Like shelf life, how long is it going to last? I mean, I keep butter in the freezer sometimes. If I have a whole lot of it.
You could certainly freeze it, but just do a pint at a time. I don't know. That's what I was going to see if it had.
Right.
But not if you keep it cold. And that's the key. If you keep it cold, it's going to slow that growing process. Just like if you put yeast dough in the refrigerator, it's going to slow that growing process. Your organisms, your yeast, your lactic acid, bacteria, they all like warm. So if you put it in cold, it's not going to grow as fast. So they're not going to multiply, and they're not going to die of starvation as fast. Does that make sense? Yes. You can leave your butter out. Yeah.
We use it fast enough where, yes. I mean, if you leave a stick of butter sitting on the counter for 2 weeks, it's going to start getting a little weird.
Yeah.
But, and that's what the, exactly. But that's what the butter bells are for also. If you're not going to use it as fast, keep a little water in the bottom of the butter bell. It keeps it from turning weird like that or, you know, souring. And then you just change the water every other day or every day or so. And it's really nice. Plus, it keeps it from getting too soft. Spoiling, souring. All right, now we're going to mix up these muffins. We're going to do, this is Ezekiel flour from the Ezekiel mix with the different grains and beans, and it's a complete protein with all your amino acids in there.
Did you want to put millet in that?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
let me see if I've got some.
Which actually turned back to the first recipe in your handout. We doubled this, Ash? Okay. So we doubled the recipe here that you have, so.
Which is just the basic muffin recipe in the cookbook, okay?
Mix all our dry ingredients together here. First, we got, you know, 4.5 cups of flour, 2 teaspoons of salt, soda, baking powder, which I have all mixed together here. And just mix your dry ingredients together first so you get a nice blend. All right, there we go. I don't like that whisk.
Oh, yeah. Like a little more open.
Now we've got, this is, I know the recipe says kefir, which I had originally planned on using kefir until.
Which you can.
Which works great. If you have some, you know, old kefir in the back of the refrigerator that's gotten very strong, you know, you can use it for baking in place of buttermilk or like that. But I decided to use the buttermilk that I made from my cultured butter instead of the kefir.
Yeah, I think you have. You could use the whey here. Those of you, if you're not familiar with millet, great, great food. You need to be eating it, and it's not birdseed, though we use it as birdseed in this country. It's a staple food in many, many, many countries, full of B vitamins, very high in protein, very easy to digest. And the nice thing about millet is you can actually add it without soaking it to your breads and muffins, pancakes, whatever. But it's wonderful boiled and eaten like rice. Yeah, great first baby food. All right.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I just add a 1/4 cup to my basic recipe, so I'm going to do a half here. Could you put the millet in a smoothie? I don't see why not. I mean, it'd probably be a little.
I would grind it up first, either in a flour or use the Tri-Best blender, grind it into a powder first, and then and then make your smoothie with it. Right.
I believe it's the I'll come stand by you. I think it's the bean cookbook. What's the bean? Rita Bingham's
The country bean?
Country Bean Cookbook. I believe it's in that cookbook that she has a whole section on making grain milks for smoothies. And you can do barley, you can do rice, you could certainly do the millet, where she gives you the equivalent of dry grain to mix with water, and you basically blend it and then strain it off, and then you can use that as a grain milk as the base for your smoothies. So you could certainly do that with the millet.
And then there are also recipes in the veggie culture packets, instructions, and the kefir culture for making cultured and fermented out of those grain milks and nut milks.
One thing you do, I want to say about baby food and things like that with the millet. You do. I really actually would start with brown rice before I went with the millet. Recently was talking with a friend who had started her baby on the millet, and she and I were both doing some research. And in some children, I don't know what it is in the millet, but it can cause night terrors. So
It might be. I just figured it might be the high B vitamin content. Not terror so much, but wild, crazy dreams. How many of y'all have taken B vitamins and you start like, man, I don't know what's going on, but I am having crazy, crazy dreams? It's one of the B's, and I can't remember which one. So it's a sign that you're maybe taking a little too much, even though B vitamins are water soluble.
Or taking too close to bedtime.
Yeah, or taking too close to bedtime. So your B vitamins you really want to take in the morning, but that's probably what it is. In the little guy, it's probably a little more of, I don't know if it's B5. I can't remember which one of the B's it is, but it causes quite vivid dreams. So think about that if you just have been all of a sudden really taking your B vitamin complex pretty faithfully, and then you're like, okay, I don't know where all these dreams are coming from. Back off that B vitamin, take it earlier in the day, okay? So that could very well be that. Okay, so we're going to, this was a double recipe of muffins. We're going to put them in our little mini muffin pans. You got the pans?
Yeah, I got them right here.
Okay. We're going to use our USA bakeware. If you are not familiar with this bakeware, I love it, love it, love it, love it. It is truly nonstick. You don't have to spray or anything. And guess why it's called USA? Because it's made in the USA. They made it themselves without government help. But anyway, I did not say that. But I just couldn't let the whole day go with, thank you very much. Yes, just like we did. No, all I've seen them do is take my money.
Relieve your bank account. Yeah.
Yes, deplete my bank account. Sorry, I'm not going to get any more political than that. But just couldn't go the whole day without saying that, Jill. Okay, we're good to go?
All right.
All right, we're going to sweep these off over here, and Ashley and I will dip these out while Caleb moves on to the next thing.
Okay, so we covered, I'm going to show y'all real quick the dip that I made for the rye bread. I never did actually bring that out and show y'all. So this is the baking. We've covered the baking part of it. We've made some dips. This is the to market little packets out there of dehydrated. They're called dip mixes, but
Oh my gosh,
we have
we use
used them for.
What? Oh man, I know. Ashley and I so need to write a cookbook for this company. We do so much with these. I know.
The roasted red pepper, it's called roasted red, the pepper spread.
Yes.
We blend that up into a powder with salt and marinate meats and turkeys and all kinds of stuff with that. This Thrill of the Dill I use as a fish seasoning. Make dips and sauces out of it. All kinds of stuff. They can be used.
That on your homemade butter and smear on some salmon.
Ooh.
I wanted to make sure it's the 1-2-3 smoothie.
Oh, right. Not the country bean.
By Rita Bingham that has the grain milks, page 161. I think she has oat milk, barley milk, rice milk, a nut milk.
And by milks, she's not talking about cooking them. If I remember correctly, you actually grind.
Just blend them. Grind the powder and then add the ingredients and blend it in your blender.
Yeah, and then just strain it off. The barley milk is wonderful. It's very wonderful to use, and one of my favorite smoothies. You use the barley milk and add a little bit of apple juice and then some frozen berries and bananas. Wonderful smoothie. Now there you'd probably want to put a little of your whey or your cultured yogurt in there as well to get your good bacteria.
I think you could certainly do the millet the same way if you wanted to.
Absolutely. Just a strainer. Oh, it's
If to get rid of the chunkiness, if
Yeah.
you wanted to, but
to
if
get
you
rid of the
want-
flour.
Yeah, but if you wanted to keep, you certainly
Seems
could.
like I didn't when I made the smoothies. I think I just started Well, you're just milling it so that you pull the Yeah.
Well, barley and oats are softer, and rice are softer than millet. Millet has that crunchy texture, so you might not like it. But the oat milk, the rice milk, and the barley milk, she does not. I know she does have you
Yes,
strain
strain
it.
it.
But they're so soft, I don't think that you wouldn't notice it. Yeah, it's gonna be personal taste, is
Yeah.
all. But this is the book.
You know, off the top of my head, the nut milks in the store, there's nothing added. I've heard in one of my lectures that is actually
just probably the form of vitamin D that it's in cannot be broken down in your body. Just like many of the iron supplements that are out there can't be broken down by your body. The fluoride that's used in water can't be utilized by your body. It's a cheap form, which is why they put it in there, but our bodies can't use it. Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yeah, and yes, it's a fat-soluble vitamin. That is true, and your body does store your vitamin A, your vitamin D. Vitamin E as well is stored in fat. It'd be very hard to overdose on vitamin E. A and D you can. But it's mostly what she's talking about is the D that they use to fortify the milk with is a form and a source of that vitamin that your body can't metabolize. So it really, that's what we're talking about. And that's why I'm saying, like iron, they use cheap mineral forms that you're, like eating rocks that your body can't do. So, yeah. So go out in the sun. Enjoy some without sunscreen. Okay, for a little while. People have been doing it for lots of years, working hard in the fields without sunscreen. My goodness, what did we do all these years? So, what's next?
I guess I could have been doing this while you were talking.
Yeah,
but,
okay. Okay. We're cool.
All right, moving on. Now we're actually going to get into making
Yogurt.
fermented and cultured foods that you came to see. So we're going to make some yogurt. And there's two different ways of getting the bacteria into your milk. And you can buy some yogurt from the store. You just got to be careful and make sure, check expiration dates. You want to get the freshest possible, and it has to have live active cultures.
Okay. Do you have milk already in there? In the fridge?
Thank you.
And again, if you can't get raw milk, or don't want to or whatever, I would definitely go with organic milk. I really would. And I could go with whole. Yes.
I have. The thing about that is that all the starters I have found all are cultured on dairy. So if you are truly completely trying to stay away from dairy,
you're going to get a minuscule amount of.
Okay, then sure, you'd be fine.
Yeah. Just know that
you would need to add some sort of sugar to the nut milks, seed milks, grain milks to properly culture and ferment that. Okay.
And that's where I would not use the honey there.
No.
I would use agave or something like that.
Agave works well. The sucanat works very well. The dehydrated sugarcane juice works very well.
But in milk, you don't want to sweeten your milk, okay? Because then you'll promote
just any of your nut milks or seed
the
milks.
growth of a little bit tartar
coconut milk. A lot of times has enough sugar in it already. You just need to taste it. It's different time to time, or if you're using fresh coconut milk. And I find that if you're going to use, coconut milk right out of the coconut, I take a little bit of the meat, add it to the milk, blend it up, and use that to make your yogurt. It makes a very nice consistency and a little bit better flavor. Okay. All right. This recipe that we have in this handout is for 4 cups of milk, which I'm going to be using. I'll show you. We have 2 different types of yogurt makers that we sell. We have the Danvier, and then this is the Euro Cuisine yogurt incubators.
One thing I learned from Lars, our German chef, that's come here a couple of times, whenever you're going to scald milk, always wet your pot, and that'll keep your milk from scorching to the bottom of the pot. So just run some water in there and dump it out before you put your milk in. Okay, so we're going to do 4 cups.
Mm-hmm.
That's just my preference. I mean, you do what you. Well, yes, yeah, I guess you're right there. Her question is about the whole milk and homogenization. Yeah, if you can't get the non-homogenized, you might want to get a skim milk because the homogenization process breaks that fat down into smaller globules where they're more absorbed into your system. So they've actually done some studies where that homogenization tends to promote ulcers and things like that in your stomach. So yes, I guess if you're not going to do raw milk, you might want to get a skim or something. I'm just so used to raw milk now that, oh man.
There's our government taking care of it.
Yep. I got a cold while I was in New York the last day. I think one too many late nights in cold theaters, but and I posted on my Facebook, and someone wrote me and said, I thought the mayor had outlawed germs in New York City, so how could you get sick? I was like, there was a lot of stuff in there about, yeah. But I actually saw the Fox and Friends cast, shook hands with Greta and Steve. That was fun. That was a highlight of one day. Walked 4 miles in Central Park. That was fun. While my daughter danced. Where I can get these milks? We have a raw milk co-op that meets here. We can't bring the milk in, but there is a raw milk co-op that's here. Of course, it's for pet consumption only. And thankfully, sure, feed it to your dog sitting next to you. So anyway, pet consumption only, of course, but you can get that here. Is it Carlton Farm? CarltonFarm.com. It's Rockmart, Georgia. So just put that in and you'll find it. You pre-order it and you can pick it up here between 1 and 2 on Thursdays. He goes all over, yes. So if you go on, you can find the one closest to you. So he goes everywhere. But there is one that meets here on Thursdays. And of course, we have our produce co-op that comes usually before 2 o'clock on Thursdays. So if you join both, you can, and that's Nature's Garden. And we have handouts up front of how to get involved with the Nature's Garden co-op. And again, they have locations all over as well, but it's just nice if, for our customers here. So you can do that. Kegel's Dairy used to sell the non-homogenized, they called it creamline milk, but they've changed hands and I don't know that they're doing that anymore. But, just look around. I think there's a website called rawmilk.com, which might have some other websites. Or, yeah, there's a raw milk co-op out of Ball Ground. We belong to one, where we pick up every 3 weeks. There's a group of us. So I'm sure there's places. Just ask around. But it's wonderful. And a lot of times on Thursdays, Carlton has extra milk. So if you want to just try it and come buy a gallon, you can. Carlton Farm.
Just
No
farm,
S
no
on
S.
farms.
CarltonFarm.com
Rockmart.
in Rockmart. In the state of South Carolina, it's actually legal to sell organic, non-pasteurized milk. The co-op that we personally belong to, that's where our group drives to, is South Carolina every 3 weeks to get milk. Milky Way Farms is the one that we get it from. So if you live near South Carolina, it's not a bad round trip.
It's
and
really not 3 hours.
and the milk lasts in the summertime. Well, now all the time I put my milk in the freezer when I come home so that I make sure that it lasts. But we usually pick it up like mid-morning, afternoon, and it was that morning's milking. So it's very, very fresh, and the faster you get it into the freezer, then the better it actually thaws and goes right back to how it was when it came out of the cow. So, and it lasts for 3 weeks. Our group drives every 3 weeks. So that's also an option. So yes,
for years
they
and
shut
years.
them down.
Yes, our government at work shut down a local dairy. Helped build that business too, didn't it? So, sorry. Oh, because of, it's a long story. A great book to read is The Milk Book by Dr. William Campbell Douglas. It's a little rough around the edges. He uses a little foul language here and there. So I have to be careful. I just want to give you that disclaimer. But it is a great book on the politics and where the whole raw milk, banning raw milk came from.
Passionate language, we'll call it that.
It will make you very, very angry. The big deal, huh? What? The Milk Book by Dr. William Campbell Douglas. He's actually from the Atlanta, Georgia area. He and his father, long line of doctors, and he wrote it. But it's just really, really great. The whole misnomer of disease being passed through into the milk, causing sickness, that's just crazy. I mean, a mother, when she gets an infection, it's not passed to her baby through her milk. And where these diseases were coming from that were being passed on through the milk were unsanitary, dirty fecal material falling into the milk and hair and stuff like that. And so that's where the whole term certified raw milk came from. A group of doctors actually got together because the people wanted raw milk, and they said, let us go into the dairies, test the milk, and certify their raw milk. And so for years, Mathis Dairy sold certified raw milk. And they would test it and make sure. Well, the dirty dairies that didn't want that, it was easier to strain the hair, strain the fecal material, let the milk sit there and take it and then pasteurize it, kill it, and then deflavor it, deodorize it, and all these. That's what's done to your milk now that you buy in the store. Some of it literally rots before. I'm not saying every dairy is like that, because when I said something to the local dairy, she was appalled. That I was like, I'm not saying your dairy's dirty, but on a large scale, and you don't want to overgeneralize and put everybody into that category, but that's kind of where the politics of it all is. And they actually hauled Mathis Dairy into court, with false witnesses, false testimonies, and it would get thrown out of court and they would win, but how can a business stay in business when they're constantly having to fight legal fees and lawyer fees? So Mathis Dairy went out of business probably in the early 70s. I know when Brad and I were first married, maybe early 80s. That's true, it was, because Brad and I were married in 75, I was thinking 72. Oh yeah, and you could go in a health food store and buy certified raw milk. A big deal. Yes, yes. So I even wonder if pet milk, where that name came from, if that was for pet consumption only. I just wonder. But anyway, I'm sorry if I'm talking too much here, baby.
Yeah, let's get back to yoga.
Yeah, sorry. I told you, just slap me. But you want to, what Caleb's doing here is you want to heat your milk up till not boiling, but just before, and then you want to let it cool down. And what you're doing there is you're killing any unwanted bacteria and organisms so that you can then put in the ones that you want. So you'll get a more reliable product. I did read that with raw milk, you don't have to heat it. In fact, I read that with raw milk, you don't even have to culture it. You can just let it sit out. But I know for a fact that when I've just let my raw milk sit out, that it's not been sometimes very pleasant flavor. It doesn't rot, it's not gross, but it's sometimes like, whoa, it's acid, and it's not consistent. So to get a consistency that you want, I would even heat the raw milk, because you're going to put the good bacteria in it. And okay.
So what I've done is you want to heat the milk to around 175, 190, in there for a few minutes, at least 2 or 3 minutes to really get rid of that.
Bath?
Got it ready over here already. I'm gonna do it in the sink. Okay. So we're at 184, and I actually got it up to about 195. So.
Do you want me to get a bowl and do it in a bowl so you can put it right up on the counter?
No, I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna do kefir and then go back to this.
Okay.
175, 185, 190. You don't want to boil it, or you don't want to scald it or burn it.
And you can let it just sit here and cool down.
Yeah.
Just don't let it cool down below 115 or 110.
You want to go to about 90.
Oh, okay.
Actually, yeah, you want to go to about 90, 95. Hold on, I want to put the pot in the...
Sorry.
You go back over here to talk to him. You'll go down to about 100 degrees is fine. But the thing is we're pulling our yogurt culture out of the refrigerator. Okay? It's cold. It's dormant. So to throw it in some really hot liquid right now is going to be unpleasant.
Kill it too.
Unpleasant.
Oh,
Killing. I mean, dying. It's unpleasant.
Kill that.
So you want to cool it down. And maybe even before while you're bringing this up to temperature, bring your culture out, let it sit on the counter for a minute or something. It would be, the better transition. Yes.
The starter?
Yes. Without this? If you can find a way to maintain 110, 115 degrees, absolutely. But you need to maintain that temperature.
Her question is, can you make yogurt without a yogurt maker? You dehydrator, I love.
Yep.
What? I've heard a crock pot, but you might want to put towels down so that it doesn't get too hot on the bottom, but you can set your dish down in the crock pot. But like he was saying, you just need a method to maintaining about 110 degrees. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yeah, that's a way too. If you didn't hear, when you fill the jars with the milk, just wrap them in a blanket, put it down in a styrofoam cooler, and that'll keep it warm. Yeah, that's
Absolutely.
a way. So there's all kinds of ways.
I
love the
a bit
yogurt
of a control freak. I like, for sure, I'm going to come back and it's going to be the same every time. So I like these little yogurt makers. I like the dehydrator. It has a thermostat on it. I can turn it right to and come back, and I know it's going to be the same every time.
Yeah.
I don't want to waste my $7, $8 gallon of my milk and possibly mess that up. So
yeah, of course you can always use it for buttermilk.
You
Just
can.
like
You
bread,
can.
if you mess up that bread, you can make croutons.
And the yogurt here that I'm going to be serving to you in this bowl, I just made a whole bowl full of it in the dehydrator.
The wonderful thing about the Excalibur is you can make gallons at a time. I love to make it in the half-gallon jars. And if you really eat a lot of yogurt, it takes just the same amount of time to heat up a gallon of milk, maybe a minute or two more, and inoculate it as it does a quart of milk. So why not make a lot? So that's what I love the dehydrator, because you can put multiple jars in there or a big bowl or whatever your family likes. So, anyway.
I'm going to run this over here to Ashley, because we're going to be serving this to you guys in just a minute.
That's the yogurt, and he's going to just sweeten it with a little bit of strawberry agave. Oh, I'm sorry. He told me he
We're
wanted
not
me to
quite
do it.
there yet.
Well, I thought she was fixing to do it.
Let's ice this down real quick.
You ice that down. I'm sitting right here.
Well, let me fix this situation over here real quick.
Well, you just fix it, sweetie. Yeah.
Well, you were
30
going to set
minutes.
the pot right on top of all the ice?
I don't know.
All right.
I don't do it that way. I do a bowl with some ice and water and then set the pot down in the big bowl.
Well, I like getting it out of my way so I can do something else.
Don't you?
So we're just going to set this down in here with a little
See,
bit of
I'd
ice.
be terrified I'd get some water in that pot.
Well, don't get water in the pot.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Yes. Yeah.
What's the question?
I've left my yogurt starter out before for hours on end, just inadvertently.
Is it still making yogurt?
Well, I haven't.
We'll try it, and if it works. I don't think it's that sensitive, unless you left it in your hot car for a week. You know, at 100 degrees or something.
Okay, this says don't store at room temperature for more than 2 months.
Oh,
So you could.
It's not that sensitive. We ship it. UPS, it sits in those hot trucks, and people are making yogurt fine with
It says
so
the cultures will remain effective for 1 year in the freezer, 4 months in the refrigerator, and do not store at room temperature for more than 2 months. So I think you're good. That's kind of like the yeast.
This has been in the refrigerator for more than 4 months, and I'm still making yogurt out of it. So if it still makes yogurt, it still makes
still
it
good.
So.
Yes, ma'am. This is actual yogurt starter. Now, can you make yogurt out of the veggie starter? What will it do
No,
to
you're
milk?
going to make more of a kefir kind
Okay.
of consistency.
The veggie starter is going to be more of a kefir kind of consistency. This is Yo Life. This is by TriBest.
And it didn't thicken up quite as well either, so.
Oh, okay. This or the veggie?
The veggie.
Okay.
We just started carrying the veggie starter, so I'm still learning about how to use it.
Again, it's different organisms make different things, okay?
I've made plenty of vegetables with it. Now I just made the cream and made the butter with it. So I'm going to continue until the next class to figure out all kinds of other stuff.
Believe me, he'll continue fermenting.
Yes. All right. Set this stuff aside. Now, while that milk is coming down in temperature, I'm going to show you guys. We're going to move on to making some kefir. Because it is very, very complicated. It takes a lot of time to show you guys
very facetious.
how to do this.
And now, like I was saying, with your yogurt, if you can just leave it sitting on the counter and let it cool down, or this is just a faster way, is to put it in the ice water bath, but you don't want to cool it down too much. If you cool it below the 90 degrees, then your organisms aren't going to like it because they really like the warm. And your incubators that you use are not hot enough to bring that milk up to temperature. So you want it to be the right temperature when you take it in there. It's really maintaining that temperature, okay? In the incubator, it'll incubate yogurt, it'll set up in about 10 to 12 hours. But I was just reading yesterday that the optimum time is actually about 15 hours. You want to see actually a little bit of whey on top. You want to see that. And that's the most maximum breakdown of your sugars and your proteins at 15 hours. So even though your yogurt looks ready, any of them, I mean, your incubation time is going to be the same. So 10 to 12 hours, it will look and feel and taste like yogurt. But what I read yesterday, doing a little more research, is that 15 hours is kind of your maximum. That you, there's a temperature setting.
I do it on 105. And then I go a little bit longer, like she said. If you're going to go the 15 hours, I would have a lower temperature. You know.
I do it in my Excalibur at 115 degrees for 12 hours.
That's what the yogurt setting says. It's 115. And remember, your milk's probably not going to get that hot, so you're as hot as 115, but your air temperature will.
Okay.
Okay. You know what? This is actually at 100 degrees.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and.
Actually, it's at 93. So
All
I
right,
think
well,
we should go ahead
let's
and.
pull it out then.
Yep. So see, that didn't take that long in the ice water bath that Caleb efficiently. Love you.
How many liters?
Spoon? Quart? A liter?
What, a liter and 4 cups? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right. I actually need a fourth of a teaspoon. Do you? Oh, no, I said it. Here we go. All right, I'm set up.
Make sure this meets your great expectations, because I like my yogurt a certain way. What do you want?
It tastes good.
Sweet or is it bitter?
You can go a little bit sweet. A little bit sweeter. What do you think? Or is that how you like it? Well, then you need start drinking that bottle of sweetener.
Okay, question is, when we make the yogurt in the dehydrator, do we cover it or not cover it?
I don't.
Okay, I have it, but there's a lot of times there's a little crusty dehydrated film on the top, and I just scoop it off and eat it.
Now you're gonna,
kind of delicious.
if you don't cover it, what I'm learning from fermentation, if you don't cover, you're gonna get bacteria from the air, which can be a good thing, especially in quick ferments. Like there's not enough time for harmful bacteria to incubate in a 24-hour ferment, is what I'm learning. And there are some good natural bacteria in the air that, what I'm learning the more and more is that our total full-on war on bacteria, the antibacterial soap and the constant hand sanitizing, and we are doing more harm than good by doing that. because there is bacteria that we come in contact and breathe in and take in all the time that we need in our bodies.
Yeah.
And so by constantly cleaning it and getting rid of it, and we're now weakening ourselves more than
Yeah, absolutely.
helping.
So to answer your question, I would just whatever you want to do. We put the lids on when we put them in a yogurt maker. So all I did notice was in the dehydrator that I did get a little crusty film on top where it kind of dehydrated that surface just a little bit, but it was no big deal.
I would say more than 30, 35 hour ferments. I would cover them. Less than that, I would leave them uncovered and let that that natural bacteria get into what you're fermenting. All right, it's about this is the YoLife yogurt powdered starter that I'm using here. It's about 1/4 of a teaspoon of powder per liter of milk. So you just want to sprinkle that in, whisk it in real good so you blend it. Yes, you can. Which is actually what I did in the dehydrator. I used about 3 or 4 tablespoons, which it says here, of Stonyfield Farms yogurt with live active cultures in it to start that. I'm sorry? To the liter of milk. Oh, sorry. Yes, the question.
I thought we were.
The question was, she asked if you can also use already made yogurt to make yogurt instead of using the starter powders, and the answer is yes, you can. You just have to make sure it truly has live active cultures still in it.
Stonyfield does, but again, you want to make sure that the expiration date is not expired, because what I finally learned, because I used to laugh, I'm like, what's the expiration date for? Because I know that every food has to put an expiration date on it, and which is some places very ridiculous. But anyway, on your yogurt and stuff, that is the date that it would be guaranteed that there's live cultures in there. So you want to make sure you get one that's got a code date pretty far out. And I've had it fail if I had opened my yogurt and been eating out of it for a couple of weeks and then tried it didn't seem to do as well. But and if you're going to use your yogurt that you've made already, or your own homemade yogurt or culture from the store, you want to use the plain, don't use the sweetened. And when you take a couple of tablespoons of it per quart of milk, I find that it's best to pour a little bit of the warmed milk into a bowl and the couple of tablespoons of yogurt there and make like a nice smooth paste out of it. If you just throw the couple of tablespoons of yogurt into the pot, you'll whisk it and it'll just be little clumps of yogurt, everywhere. So you want to make that paste first and then dump it back into the pot. Does that make sense? So.
I'm not using Pectin today. If you want to strain the yogurt and get a nice, if you want a thicker yogurt, more of a Greek yogurt or a little bit,
A smoother, like the store-bought, if your kids are real particular, the Pectin.
Most store-bought yogurts, yeah.
Yeah, most store-bought yogurts have a little Pectin in it. It'll help it set up a little better too. Also, Ashley, with some of your like soy milk and stuff like that, did you find that you needed the Pectin, or no? Have you ever done it?
There again, my daughter is highly allergic with milk, and so I don't even see the point in trying to make soy milk yogurt because she can't have it, because all of the yogurt starters have. Thank you so much.
I have found a few coconut yogurts that have live cultures in them that claim to be completely dairy-free, but from the few people that I've talked to or the one place I found it, it's kind of hit or miss. Sometimes they have it, sometimes they don't. And so if you can find a non-dairy, truly dairy-free yogurt with live active cultures in it, then that would work for you. But to answer your question, the Pectin, her question is, what is Pectin?
What is Pectin? Do you know? Do you want to answer?
No, go ahead.
Okay. Pectin is the naturally, it's a soluble fiber that's found in your fruit and grapes and fruits, and that's what makes jelly gel. And typically years ago, making jelly, they would have to cook it and cook it and cook it and cook it and cook it all day for that natural pectin to cause the jelly, the juice, to gel. And so they found ways, of course, to extract it. So it's a natural product from fruits that tends to cause things to gel. So, well, and that's why if you've never used the Panoma Pectin, like the Sure Gel and Certo, those gels in the store, they're pectin based, but they really depend on the sugar content. So if any jelly makers in here, you'll know that you have to use that amount of sugar, which is like more than the juice, and if you don't want to. But this product is fabulous, Pomona's Pectin. It uses calcium water and the pectin, and that's the way it gels. So you can use no sugar, you can use honey, you can use sucanat with honey, you can use agave nectar, you can use whatever you want. And you can turn fruit juice into Jell-O if your kids are still stuck on Jell-O and you're like, well, I don't want to buy that. You can make it with the Pomona's Pectin. They have some great recipes on their website. The little instructions come totally how to make sugar-free or whatever. And like I said, it's really foolproof. Unlike the Sure Gel and Certo that you buy in the store, you have to use that amount of sugar. Yes?
For those of you who want to do it the old-fashioned way, the zojirushi is a jelly maker too.
Yes, actually you can put the bread machine has a jelly making cycle, and really all it is it cooks and stirs that jelly, so you don't have to use any of these additives.
Okay, let's
and
finish with this yogurt real quick so we can get it in the incubator before it cools down too much, all right?
Okay.
Well, it's sitting on this granite and it's going to suck the heat right out of it. And I want to explain real quick. I left a little bit of room in each one of these cups on top. You want to go ahead and start capping those and put them in the incubator?
Yes, absolutely.
And the reason I do that is because it's going to expand a little bit when it ferments. It's going to fluff up. But then I've got some jars in here that are already made. And let's see, how many kids are in here today?
How many children? We have a couple.
Raise your hand if you're under
12.
Yeah, there you go. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. What you
And now all we're going to do is plug our...
So what you can do, 5. Okay.
Actually, I'm
All you. Need to have you up here teaching classes anyway. All right. What you can do then is once your yogurt's finished is in your jars, that little bit of room you left on top. Now, remember I did say that I don't like mixing sugars and flavorings and fruits and stuff into the yogurt to store it. But what you can do is you can float it right on top so that the kids should just go in the refrigerator, grab a jar out, then go ahead and mix it in. Instead of fruit on the bottom, it's fruit on the top. So, I'm sorry? Oh, that's after, yeah. After you've made the yogurt, you go ahead and put it on top, put it in the refrigerator.
Oh, is that it? Okay, I think just a few more minutes. It's at like 175. So the jars are nice if you have kids, because my kids, when I would make it when they were all little, they would just go pull them out of their fridge and squeeze some honey right in there and vanilla or whatever and just stir it up and just eat it out of the jar.
You want one of these, man? There you go. Just be careful when you stir it up, okay? It's got strawberry agave nectar and a little bit of vanilla in it, okay? Sound good? There you go.
And if you do buy the yogurt makers like this, I would recommend possibly buying an extra set of jars, and then go ahead and make a batch, a second batch, and then keep them in your refrigerator. And then as soon as you get a batch of jars empty, then you know it's time to make again, and that way you've got yogurt going all, got it available all the time.
Don't worry, adults, we're gonna serve y'all up some here in just a minute. But
it's like, okay, I need to be under 12 to come to this class.
You're welcome.
Can you make yogurt from whey? No, whey is a byproduct of yogurt and cheese making. Yeah, it's the liquid that comes off when the curd is solidified.
When I make mine, I have one with whey and I make yogurt.
No, nope, it's the byproduct. Her question was, can you make yogurt from whey? No, whey is the byproduct of the curd forming. Okay, Kefir,
You
ready?
stir that up real good? What do you think? It's really good? Good. All right. Now, that's yogurt.
That
Pretty
was
simple.
unpaid and unsolicited.
That's right.
Good job. Glad you liked it.
I'm sorry? 15 on 105 degrees in the dehydrator. Okay, what the kids are eating is was made in the Euro Cuisine yogurt incubator. Which, did you get that plugged in and
Yep. Did I?
turn that on?
Oh, sorry. That would help.
If all else fails, plug it in, turn it on. Now, the most complicated thing we're going to do today. We're going to make kefir. This is cold milk right out of the refrigerator. I do sterilize my jars. Cold milk, quart jar.
Yeah. You're going to love this.
Yes.
Yes.
Organic milk.
Cold milk right out of the refrigerator. You can use your raw milk or whatever you have.
Cold milk, no heating, no anything. Like I said, I do sterilize my jars. Don't need that. 1 packet of starter powder is good for 1 quart of liquid. You can start, soy milks, nut milks. Like I said, once again, grain milks. Like I said, you do need to add some additional sugar for those milks. Yes.
His question was, are the kefir grains? How many of y'all are familiar with the kefir grains, or you have some? They have more organisms, yes. Maybe a little more temperamental, or if you don't feed them, whatever.
Some people don't have the time, the dedication, patience, whatever, to maintain kefir grains all the time. So if you won't do that, if you won't do anything at all, and this is this simple, I say this is,
yeah, this
this
is
is better than nothing.
How many organisms?
15, I believe. Maybe wrong.
They almost look like popcorn. They're little cultures, curds of the organisms that you can use as a starter. I don't know. I mean, people have them.
You have to get them from somebody. You can
talk to somebody.
order them. You can order them offline.
Yeah, you can order them online. The kefir starter. Yes, this is what we're using for the kefir. And that's it. You just saw him make kefir. Now it needs to incubate for about 30 hours.
Yeah, the first batch. Right now, summertime, it's kind of warm, so 24 hours I'm finding is good. Shake a little bit. You can. Yes.
Well,
Using kefir from kefir grains is not going to do as well. I don't know. Kefir from kefir grains, you need kefir grains to make kefir. Powdered kefir starter, has, concentrated bacteria and stuff to culture more. Now, once this is finished, which we're done making it, set it on the counter, and tomorrow,
you're gonna love having
tomorrow afternoon, it's finished.
Okay.
Yeah.
For about 24 hours, 30 hours maybe in the winter time, and then are you gonna tell them that they can?
What? I don't do it. I've never done it. It's not necessary.
The directions talk about warming the milk. I didn't know that it talked about that.
Which they actually have recently added that to their instructions, just because some people, if it's colder, they end up leaving their milk sitting out for 2 days and wonder why it didn't thicken up right. If it's warm in here like it is, or if it's warmer in your house, or if you have a warmer place, don't put it in the direct sunlight. I find it doesn't like that. Because it gets a little too hot. 70, 75 degrees is ideal temperature for kefir. No, it'll separate weird. It'll still culture. It'll just get a little separated and weird. Yep. Once it's there, you can come back an hour or so later, just to make sure. Which I do. I do that. I'll come back, an hour or so later. Shake it one more time because that was a powder. And you put it in cold liquid, so just to make sure it dissolved properly, That's fine.
Do you know if you can put 2 packets in a bigger jar?
Sure. But if you'll be patient and wait till tomorrow, you can take 2 tablespoons out of that, or a half cup, and make a half gallon, and save your starter powder.
That's the yogurt.
Because those are, if you buy the 6-pack, are around, a few, $4 or so a piece, and you can do it many, 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 many times. But what you're doing is you're transferring some flavor and some spoilage that is there, and it'll just continue to get stronger in flavor. So about every 8 or 9 times, I start over with a fresh starter packet. Oh yeah, her question was, and what I was explaining was, once this is finished, you can use a few tablespoons of the finished kefir to start another quart. Or if you'll read your instructions, I don't know that I included transferring, but yeah, I didn't. There's more instructions in the full packet. It actually comes with about 4 pages of transferring, reculturing, yeah, other recipes and stuff.
Do I need more?
So yeah, 2 tablespoons to start another quart. And then you can continue. Her question was, how many times can you do that? And I said, you can do it many, many, many times. You're just going to start getting stronger and stronger and stronger in flavor. So about every 8 or 9 times, I start over with a fresh starter packet. Yes. It doesn't really matter. And the instructions will tell you that it's better to, before you refrigerate, take the 2 tablespoons for best results, it says. A lot of times instructions are just, they're being foolproof. They want to make sure. What I do at home, I actually make half gallons. I will drink the half gallon in a few days, and that's between 2-3 people. I'll drink it down till there is about a half cup left in the bottom. And then I just fill it back up out of the refrigerator. I fill it back up after I drank it over 2 or 3 days, shake it back up, put it back on the counter, and then I don't even wash my jar except for every 3rd time I make it. I will completely, now I'll still save my, half cup. I'll put it in a, smaller jar, completely wash, rinse, sterilize my jar again, and then keep going with it. So 1 packet to 1 quart. There are already pre-measured packets in here. So 1 packet to 1 quart. I'm sorry? 2 tablespoons. All right.
So if you leave it, then, like if you take that little starter out of there and start your new one, if you kind of leave it longer, are you going to grow more organisms?
No.
No.
Like the lady was saying earlier in the back with the yogurt, if you leave it for 24 hours incubating, you are going to, it is continue to, digest the lactose, convert it into lactase. It may be more friendly to people with, milk sensitivities. Yes? Her question was, is kefir better for you than yogurt, more bacteria than yogurt? Yes.
Yes. The answer is yes. From what and like I said, I'm a food microbiologist, and all these years I thought kefir was I would go, it's just liquid yogurt. But I should have thought that out logically and known that it had to be different organisms, like I said, or it would have solidified the curd. So there are different organisms that culture yogurt and that culture kefir, just like there's different organisms that culture different cheeses. Swiss cheese has a different organism, blah, 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 to get the different flavors. What I learned when I went back and researched it again is yogurt, the organisms that are in yogurt that are typically used to culture yogurt are very good for you when you're eating them. They do great things in your body. They help you digest the food. They do things while you're eating it. They cannot recolonize your gut. Your kefir organisms, however, on the other hand, can recolonize your gut. You've got a strain of organisms called, your yogurt is predominantly your lactobacillus. Your kefir is your lactobacillus, as well as an organism called leuconostoc. And that's what, and I think there might even be a strain of yeast in there. I have to check that again. I might be.
The kefir starters have 2 strains of yeast.
Okay, I don't see it in here. Oh yes, kefir yeast. Okay, which don't panic. That yeast that's in there is the one that helps suppress candida. That's the overgrowth, the disease-causing yeast. So you want those, just like you want the good bacteria that helps fight the bad bacteria. There's good yeast and there's not so great yeast. You know, I don't know. I've never thought about that. You might could mix the two and make a solid. I don't know. That's a very good question. You got me.
You want to repeat her question?
I'm sorry. Her question is, if you don't like drinking and you don't like your cultured dairy liquid,
well,
could you mix the 2 cultures and get the leuconostoc and the yeast and those organisms from the kefir with your yogurt? You know, I don't see why you couldn't.
Or maybe could I?
You know, I just don't know. You've stumped the
think
professor here. I'm going to have to.
Maybe I could change your mind about drinking your yogurt? Is that possible too? But if you did, I'm
Your
gonna
children?
make.
Oh my! Just throw some frozen fruit in
I'm
there,
gonna
and
make
it'll
a
be
smoothie
like ice cream.
out of the kefir for you guys. Okay. It is really good. Yes. Can you? Really? Okay. Okay. Really? Okay.
Okay, she's saying you can drain the kefir like using a coffee filter. This strainer would be too porous, but she was saying if you put a coffee filter in here, that you could drain some of the whey off of the kefir as well. Which, by the way, what we have draining in here is one of our homemade yogurts, because over the years I had not had great success with the homemade yogurt straining, and this one did just fine. And this did not have pectin in it. So it was made in the Dambier, the blue box there, the Dambier yogurt maker, which, by the way, that's one of our favorites. It has a timer. It has a thermometer that comes with it. So it's a great little yogurt maker. One thing I do want to point out, how many of y'all have the Yo Life yogurt maker? And you've heard me highly recommend it. We're in a little deliberation with them right now, because Caleb started doing some checking and found that the temperature of the Yo Life, which we love because it comes with the high dome, so you can do quart jars in there, or you can do the little jars, either one, or you can do a bowl. He started doing some checking on the temperatures and found that the Yo Life was 132 degrees incubation temperature. We're in some conversation with them. They're saying at 138 or 132, whatever, that the milk doesn't actually get that hot. We haven't done milk, but he checked temperature of water in there, and it was high, very, very high. So we're in a little bit of a dilemma. You'll see that we pulled them off the shelf until we can figure this out. However, yesterday I did some research, and I found a website that was talking about another brand of incubator for yogurt making. Said the same thing. She was like, all these years I've been making my yogurt in this, and only to find out that the temperature is 130 something degrees, and I'm really killing the organisms, because you really don't want that over 115. But she found a solution to the problem. So those of you that already have the Yo Life, buy a dimmer switch cord. You know, a cord like you plug into a lamp for a dimmer. Plug it into the wall, plug your yogurt maker into the dimmer, and turn your dimmer. You'll have to find the right place for it to make your yogurt maker not so hot. So I tell you that because I knew some of you already have the Yo Life. But we're going to get to the bottom of it and figure out, you know, because TriBest really does their homework. So I'm a little surprised on that, and the letter they sent us back said this is not an issue, that the milk, to get the milk at that temperature, it has to be this hot. But I've never had the issues with those that are actually at 105, 115. So, okay? Sorry.
All right. No, you're fine.
Can you do that much at a time? Yeah, maybe we better. Do you have another package of of fruit?
I have 3, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I just don't know how, that looks like a lot. How much kefir are you going to put in?
We'll go with it.
Whatever? Okay.
Yeah, I think it'll be all right. We'll see.
Whatever. Me and blenders don't get along. Not, well, yeah. That's going to...
Hey, you come here.
No, me and blenders do not get along.
Okay.
Oh,
what
Phytoberry.
I've got here is some frozen tropical fruit smoothie blended strawberries, mangoes, pineapples. Really good, I found, for making smoothies.
What he wants to add, and I didn't know he had been doing this, was adding this product called Phytoberry. There's like 40, I see I read all this, yes, 40 different fruit concentrates. This company is an excellent, excellent company. And what they've done with the different berries, like 1 scoop, so this would be great to throw in your kids' smoothie. 1 scoop is like 6 to 8 servings of fruit a day. And all of the vegetables, I don't know if you know what the ORAC level is, but that's your measurement of the antioxidants that are available in those fruits. All of them are 40 or higher. And not only, though, that they do their research on that, but they also researched the synergistic, what do I want to say, the synergy between the different fruits that they used. Because just because you take an antioxidant that has a real high ORAC value, if your organ can't use that, it's really of no value. It's just, you're just taking it. So they did their homework and came up with the right synergy of fruits and that would combine to really support the entire immune system and the organs in your body.
Okay.
So the Phytoberry is an excellent. There's a Phytoberry for kids. Look, it's a little pricey. It's just an excellent, excellent product. If you're concerned, I know most kids, we get a lot of fruits and vegetables. I don't know that we get 6 to 8 a day, even.
Now you can get this big container, or there's some little single packs that if you guys want to try those.
But
Okay.
and it's sweetened with, I believe, stevia.
Is it stevia?
No, it does have some evaporated cane juice. Okay. But it's got your natural berry and your beetroot powder, but you can see all the different fruits that are here, and it's got even some of your essential fatty acids. And the Phytoberry for kids actually has your essential fatty acids and probiotic in there. So that's a very, very, very good product. Okay. Blend it away, baby.
Okay. Now, for myself, I like to blend up some flaxseed to add in here also. I like the flavor of it and flax oil. I've also done it without the Phytoberry powder, flaxseed, and sweetened it with dried dates.
Oh, that's really good.
I'll blend up the dates first with a little bit of orange juice or something, or just some sort of liquid, make a paste, and then that's the only sweetener I use, except for some frozen fruit and my kefir.
And dates are so high in potassium, so high in fiber, naturally sweet. Oh man, and the dates we sell, if y'all haven't tried those, they are so magnificent. When I want something sweet, sometimes just 1 or 2 dates is all I need.
And using them also, I found
inside.
If you want to make some wonderful granola bars, use it as a binder, as a sweetener. It's excellent. Makes wonderful granola bars, making a paste out of the dates with a little orange juice and dates. All right, we're going to blend this up.
Do we need to stir it down? Stir it down once. Here's some cups. enough? Which I love the blender attachment to this mixer. I love that it's not funneled down like that. The wide base really, really is nice. Yum, thank you. Oh, wow.
That good?
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's plenty sweet enough.
All right, we're going to do this just a couple more times, so bear with me. And
We can go ahead and be.
this class quickly doubled in size since Friday, so. Where you at? There you go. Yes, ma'am. Yes. Yes, I was explaining earlier. Her question was, can you use the Kefir starter packet to do non-milks, nut milks or seed milks, grain milks, or tea and juice, water?
Remember to repeat.
Her question was, tea, water, juices, and stuff like that. I found the darker juices work better. I haven't had good luck with the clear juices. No. You'll mix it in. Her question was, is it the same process to ferment juices and teas as it is with milk? No, it takes longer. It takes 5, 6, 7 days to do that. And then after the first couple days, it'll start building up carbonation, which is going to be it's going to be nice and carbonated like a soda. I make some out of a strawberry herbal tea that we sell. It's been kind of hit and miss though. Sometimes can't quite figure out why it works. Sometimes why it doesn't. I think it has to do with the sugar content. Sometimes I'm getting enough. Sometimes I'm not. So I'm still playing with that. That's why I didn't really talk about it. I have some sitting over here in this jar that I'm hoping. It's only been there about 5 days because I had to retry it.
But when you ask if it's the same process, it's just as simple. You sprinkle the package of stuff in there and stir of the starter.
It just takes longer.
And it just takes 5 to 6 days as opposed to overnight. But then you can use it to culture your next batch indefinitely with your juices and things like that. And I tell you, what we tried to do is the wild strawberry herbal tea we had left over in one of the classes, sweetened a little bit. That was the best fermented drink I've ever tasted. It tasted like a natural soda. It was so delicious. Your kids would love it. But it's been very hit and miss with it. We can't figure out what that is. So that's why we kind of avoided it today. But then you can use it to culture your next batch indefinitely, unlike with the kefir.
Come on.
I'm okay. I was just coming over here.
Have a muffin.
How'd y'all like the muffin? Do you like that, baby? How is the butter?
Same thing.
Same thing. He's just
I'm
doing
just
again.
making enough for you guys.
Are you making a third batch too?
Yeah, I am.
How many people do we actually have? The first yogurt? I haven't.
Her question was, if you're using a tea or juice or something, how do you know when it's finished? And when it starts getting carbonated, I would give it a few more days, and you're good. Yes. And as long as it doesn't have an unpleasant smell, that's going to be the sign that you did something wrong, or it's not right, or it went bad. If it's, well, some around here, this has an unpleasant smell. To me, it smells. If it has a tangy, you'll learn after fermenting for a little while what is actually truly unpleasant and what is, just, proper fermentation. So, when it's carbonated, it has a little bit of a tangy smell to it. You're good. Skim milk works fine. It may take a little bit longer, and you will not come up with as thick of a consistency.
What you need, babe?
No, not at all. No. I have not done it very much. The question was, can you use 2% or skim? Or I haven't. I just really haven't experimented with that much. It should work. Yeah. I don't see why it won't work. You just will not have as thick a consistency. Okay. Let me pass this over to them real quick, and I'm going to make one more batch. How are we doing?
Good.
How many are you getting out of one batch? Let me dump this in here for you real quick. Do you know? 32. Okay.
Well, probably 35.
Okay,
40.
because I got another half batch to make, and then we'll be.
Okay.
Did you guys get the muffins already with the cultured butter? Is that good? Very good. All right.
Hey, Caleb, tell them what you sweetened the yogurt with. We've had several questions about that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I sweetened the yogurt that you guys had and the kids had in the jars. It was strawberry agave nectar and a little bit of vanilla. And that's it. And like I was explaining with the jars, and I said you don't want to mix alcohols like with the vanilla extract and the sugars. I don't like mixing them into the yogurts and then storing them in the refrigerator. So what I did is with the jars, I put the strawberry agave on top and then just floated the vanilla on top of that. So I don't see that being a problem as long as it's not really mixed into the yogurt. Yes.
Anybody need? Okay. That should be good.
Yeah. Like we're doing here, or to keep in a jar or something. Yeah, right. The strawberry agave is really good. Or if you want to do fruits, just blend it up. You know, just don't. I wouldn't keep that for weeks. You know, maybe 4 or 5 days. The sugars and the acids and the fruit and stuff just can kind of change. You know, the whole process it's going through and the consistency. So.
And another trick with the yogurt.
What was that?
The other trick with the yogurt that we wanted to do, but because of how humid it is right now, it just didn't work. Make your fruit leathers in your dehydrator, but make them so that they are overdone, so they are extra crispy, and then powder your fruit leather, and so you have powdered fruit, basically. And then you can sprinkle a tablespoon of that powdered fruit mixture is the equivalent of 1/4 cup of fresh fruit. And so you can put that on top of your made yogurt in the jar and squeeze a little bit of agave, do your little, your shot of vanilla, put the lid on it, and then the powdered fruit will actually slowly dissolve into the yogurt, and then you'll get that benefit. So if you ever accidentally over dehydrate your fruit leather, you now have something that you can do with it. And that's what we wanted to do.
That was my plan for you guys,
but it's so humid, 2.5 days of doing fruit leathers, and they still were not crispy.
I poured them a little too thick too.
Yes.
They're great, chewy, wonderful fruit leathers.
Yes, when it's hot and humid, dehydration, it totally depends. The time to dehydrate for certain foods will totally depend on how humid and how much moisture is in the air outside. So just keep that in mind too. But that's another way you could certainly do that with your kefir as well. But yeah, the agave nectar, the raw agave nectar that we carry, they make a line of flavored agave syrup: cinnamon, vanilla, maple, and strawberry. And they're fantastic on pancakes and waffles. And then they're also excellent to sweeten things like this. If you don't want to add fruit, that's what I did with the yogurt today. I used the strawberry agave syrup.
And they don't need to dissolve either. Cold liquids, you can put the agave straight in there, cold liquid, and it's dissolved right away.
That's one of the great things about the agave nectar is it dissolves in cold and even frozen things immediately. It doesn't get hard like honey would. So just wanted to put that out there.
Which the whipped honeys, the flavored whipped honeys are also good, but like she said, they're a little harder to mix in. They'd be great in a smoothie or something.
How you doing over there?
I got 10 more I need.
10 more?
Yep. Oh, that'll do it. How is it?
And between the kefir and the fruit and this phytoberry powder, you are getting a serious packed full punch of
antioxidants, good fruit. And if you use a dark berry, there's some, like the raspberry, blackberry, blueberry, the strawberry, that mixture. You can even throw a handful of salad greens in there and they'll never know. I'm not kidding, they won't taste it. Okay. How we doing? Vegetables? Okay. You keeping that?
No.
Okay. Just pour it in there. All righty. Huh? And I guess, is it 10, is it 70? Okay, then you need 2 more. I'm sorry, what?
We're good.
Is he doing a Brad or an Ashley, or boy, they talk so mean about me behind my back.
And we'll do another class. I did, terribly.
Okay.
While you were in New York.
Oh, all right.
But yes, they work great. Her question was, we have these little silicone popsicle makers.
Oh, yeah.
And yes, you can pour this yogurt, kefir mixture, smoothie, even the frozen herbal tea. Well, yeah, I'm off. I'm sorry. We're good. Her question was, we sell these little silicone popsicle makers, and to put this the smoothie in there, some of the cultured herbal teas, and even just yogurt, and freeze them or not freeze them. Yogurt I've put in there for the kids, just in because they sell those nasty, funky, glow in the dark yogurt squeeze tubes in the store, and for some reason the kids love it. It's in a squeeze tube and they just think that's amazing. So put them in the silicone pop makers and freeze them or don't freeze them, and it works great.
Okay,
All
you
right,
ready?
moving on.
Vegetables.
So that was yogurts and kefirs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We're gonna serve the dark rye bread, the pumpernickel bread, basically, with the strained yogurt, thrill of the dill dip mix spread that I've made to put on top. So we're gonna serve that to you guys while I get set up over here. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Her question was, I didn't sweeten the smoothie with anything except for the phytoberry powder and the frozen fruit. And yes.
And the frozen fruit was not sweetened. It was the fresh frozen fruit. And the yogurt that you fed was with just the strawberry agave and a little bit of vanilla. Yes. And then I love the sweetened honeys, the whipped honeys that we have. There's a raspberry, a lemon, an orange, and I think a cinnamon. But I love the lemon, the orange, and the raspberry in the yogurt. It's very nice as well. And then I use just honey in my smoothies at home with just the frozen berries and things like that. Or banana, or like Caleb said, I'm falling in love with using the dates because they are so good. They're so sweet. And that really, somebody was talking to me about the simple sugars. That gets around that whole simple sugar. Yeah, put the dates in with your smoothie. Okay.
If you're going to do that, if you're going to put the dates in with your smoothie, like I was explaining, it works best to make like a paste first out of them. I usually use a little orange juice, dates, make a paste, pit them first. I made that mistake before. Just dry dates.
Yeah. in your blender
blend
first.
it, make a paste out of it, so that it blends more smoothly into your. Now I've not before. I've made some smoothies that just throw the dried dates right on top, whole.
Just make sure to take the pit out.
Yes.
You
and
can
it
buy
makes
pitted
little-
dates. The ones we sell are not pitted.
And with the frozen fruit in the smoothie, it makes these chewy little bits in your smoothie, which is
nice.
kind of nice sometimes. But if you want a nice smooth smoothie, then I would make a paste out of the dates first. Usually 2. I do about 2 of them.
I like as many dates as I can get. And with 3 kids, it's kind of hard.
Where is
We're digressing.
black ceramic knife in there?
Thanks. Yes. Okay. All right.
This is where I step back. All right.
Did you want to empty the crock first or do this first? What are we doing first?
I've got this one.
Okay.
Um,
Which one are you doing first?
doesn't matter really.
Okay.
I'll do the empty one first, and then
Okay.
I'll take the other one out.
Sounds good.
Because really, I'm just going to shred up the cabbages.
Okay.
All right, we're going to do cultured vegetables. This is where it gets a little funky.
But so good for you. Oh my gosh. Oh,
Sure.
yeah. You know what?
We
Let's
can go
put
to
it
the
on the back.
Let
Can
me
you
ju-
lift
actually,
it?
I'll just take my stuff out and throw it right up here.
Yeah, I wondered that when I sat it there. You're going to love this. I can't wait for y'all to taste this.
I don't need that. Yes, ma'am.
You don't or you do?
I don't need the lines. No.
Okay.
Don't need the oranges either.
If you have a husband that has to sleep at like 5 o'clock in the morning to go to work, make smoothies the night before and
Sure.
how much are you gonna really
No.
As far as the nutritional value, minimal. I mean, because your yogurt, remember, it's a form of preservation. So this is preserves. These
If-
organisms grow and they stay alive.
If you're going to do that, that's where I would start trying to stay away from honeys or alcohol, extra, alcohol, in
And-
extracts and stuff like that.
And you might want to stick more, well, blueberries tend to be kind of gelatinous. That's the only thing I notice is the texture changes. And I'm not a big fan of when that texture changes and gets kind of gelatin-like. And I'm like, ooh, no. Even though the taste is okay, I just don't care for it. It just doesn't take that long to make one, you know.
Hey, Maggie,
Yes,
could you
ma'am.
see if you can find me a box grater? You know, the graters, the handheld little. Is it in there?
Huh. Yeah. Spoon? Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, was it under here? I have heard that with the kefir grains more than the starter powders.
Okay.
I don't
Her
know why that
question
is.
is she's heard that metal kills the organisms in your kefir.
And I think that has to do with the kefir grains being a little more acidic from the continuous transferring, I don't know. Yeah.
Wow, that's interesting.
And like
I'll
I said,
have to
I
do some
haven't
research
found
on
that
that.
so much with the kefir starter powders as with the kefir grains. Okay? Because I keep them in mason jars in here with metal rings on the top. I'm shaking them all the time to make my smoothies every day, and I haven't seen it affect it with the starter powders. But you are correct about the kefir grains. Okay.
All righty. Let me get that.
All right. We're actually going to do 2 different kinds. With the veggie starter powder that we sell now, you want to do a maximum. Can you get Maggie to clean that out?
This?
Wash
oh, yeah.
it? Yeah. You want to do a maximum of about a 10-day ferment with your cultured vegetables. Okay.
It could be hot water.
Yeah.
That first? Okay.
Yeah. And I wiped it out with a little GSE and then rinsed it.
Okay.
And then I'm also going to do what I have in here is a 3-week fermented sauerkraut that I did not use any culture of the starter powder. I just relied on the natural bacteria that's in the cabbage to do its thing. So.
Okay, I'll be right back.
Yes. Now, in both of my vegetables, I'm going to use green cabbage, purple cabbage, and apples. So I'm going to go ahead and shred up all this together. Now, I am using organic vegetables. I think it is very important when you are important all the time anyway, but especially important because to me, the thought of using chemical sprayed and soaked vegetables and then marinating them in their own juices for days and days and days just doesn't really sound appealing. So I am using all organic produce here today to do this. So I'm starting with this purple cabbage. I'm going to peel off the first couple leaves on the outside. Go ahead and knock off some of the core. Now I'm going to split this in half. Now there's many ways of doing this, okay? You can use, say, a box grater like this to shred them. You can rely on your knife because naturally the way the cabbage is made, you can shred it easily enough with a knife. Or you can use something like this that I really like to shred your cabbages. Works really well. You load them down in here like this. Got it backwards. And with some of the crocks, like we have a 10-liter crock also. What I'm using today is a 5-liter, but we also sell 10-liter crocks that if you're going to do large quantities, something like this or something like this. Works really well too. So I'm trying to figure out a way to hook up a Chevy 350 to this thing, and then we'd really be in business. But there are different ways of shredding cabbage.
Sorry. I meant to get these and got the wrong thing. But the fermentation crocks, just so you know, you can do these in bowls and you can do it with weights, but everything I've read, there's a slime issue of a growth on top. And
Not in the crocks.
not with that's why the crocks are so invaluable. The crocks, they have the weights and then the little...
Isn't there
huh?
thing that goes in here? A pusher?
That is, no, I don't think so. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to finish that with the knife.
Yeah.
We do, but I'd rather not use it.
No, I think you just push with that.
And then what?
I don't know. But the nice thing about the crocks is how it prevents that is you have this lip here, the well, and once you load your vegetables and press them down, then you put water in here and put your lid on, and that causes like a seal. So that prevents the slime, the growth on top. I've literally had my sauerkraut, I forgot it, after like the second or third batch we did, and it was there for months and months. And I went, oh yeah, maybe I should check that sauerkraut. It was fine. I mean, it was just absolutely fine. Didn't have any scum, nothing, no growth of anything. So it was really nice. Yes? Yeah, you can remove it off. It's just, man, I did a lot of reading, and everybody just talked about how invaluable the crocks were. And these are actually made in Poland, been made by this company for many, 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 many years. So we're very excited to have these. We have this size, and we have a big 10-liter size if anybody is feeling very sauerkrauty. So. Your German roots are coming out on you. Well, you can do the fermented vegetables either with the culture or without. We have a great little book that we just started carrying. The Making Sauerkraut and Pickled Vegetables at Home has lots of great recipes. There's so many things you can do. I particularly like the sauerkraut with a little Granny Smith apples or a nice tart apple in it. Really gives it a nice flavor. Yeah, and that's what he's going to serve for you. So this is a great little book to pick up. And you're going to see how easy this is. I'm talking, I gave Brad one of these for Christmas several years ago. And we went to the store, and Ashley's little girl was over, and my granddaughter, and we made sauerkraut. I mean, we just, in just a few minutes, we had, you know, the big crock loaded up. And then the waiting. What can I do for you? And one thing, like I was telling you earlier, the white film that you usually see on the cabbage, you actually don't want to overwash. I mean, you do want to give it a good rinse because it grew in the dirt. And you do want to, I would do organic vegetables. But that white film is really part of it's the organism. So you don't want to just like scrub that off. You want to leave it on.
If you want to start on some of these apples.
Okay.
With the box grater.
Okay. All righty.
That's 5 liters on the inside.
So that's a little more than 5 quarts. I know, it doesn't. Because, see, I went on and ordered the 10-liter. I was like, well, people are going to want to make more than a gallon, which you really may. I mean, because it takes several weeks at a time. But a gallon, you know, and if you really start eating it like you should, several tablespoons a day, you could really go through it. But the 10-liter is, whew, wow, it's big. Okay. Just grate them?
I just did it whole and then just got out of the core and turned
Okay.
it. And ended up a little square in the middle.
I can do that.
All right. Talk about the box grater.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know if y'all have box graters at home that you still use. This one is the best I've ever seen. This is by Queasy Pro. And you can see the little etchings down the center. It's etched, and the blades are actually not just stamped out, they're sharpened. It's very, very sharp. The etching helps the food to just slide across it. Yeah, it's amazing. The only thing you have to be careful for is grating things that you didn't want grated, like your fingers. How we doing there?
We're getting there.
Okay. Just checking on you. How many apples?
Do all of them.
Okay. Can I use one of these bowls? Any questions? Y'all are so quiet. Yes. No, I don't think you would eat too much. You can eat too much. No. Oh gosh, they're endless. Read the article, but big things, they help digestion. 2 ways. They produce enzymes by breaking the food down. They are pre-digesting the food for you. Like now Ashley's little girl can't, but people that are allergic to lactose in milk, the milk sugar, can a lot of times eat yogurt because that's what's digested in your yogurt by the organisms. So a lot of times it'll help with food allergies. If you read the article, I am firmly convinced that part of what's going on with all these food allergies is poor digestion. So let's improve the digestion. Yes, we might have to give up those foods for a little bit till we get our digestion improved, but I just never seen so many people allergic to real food. Now, I think things are being done to our food. I do agree with that, but you know, there's some foods that just like, wow, really? So that's a big player, is the helping your digestion. Yogurt organisms actually produce something in your intestinal tract. They produce B vitamins. They produce something called lactoferrin that helps you absorb iron. So that's a nice thing. You'll actually absorb more nutrients eating this way. Then boosting your immune system. Most people think of their immune system as white blood cells, lymphocytes, but most of your immune system is the good bacteria that lives in your gut. That's about 80% of your immune system is that. Being a food microbiologist, I am firmly convinced that so much of the food poisoning outbreaks that we see in this country, I really believe two things are the biggest players in that. Heavy use of antacids. Antacids, one of the #1 selling drugs in this country, over-the-counter drugs. You don't want to be alkalizing your stomach acid. One of the things your stomach acid does, it's very important for the digestion of proteins, but the other thing is it kills bacteria. It kills harmful bacteria. So this is a terrible thing that we're doing, alkalizing our stomach acid. And then the other thing is the fact that we don't have this good bacteria in there, so we get exposed to salmonella or whatever, and it's gonna grow because we don't have the good bacteria there. So I think we've got some huge issues there. Again, I just can't stress to you enough the key role that these organisms play. This week when I got some kind of little bug up in New York, so I came home with a fever and sore throat and the chills, and I just started heavy duty taking the Ferm Plus probiotic that we sell. I would take a teaspoon several times a day and gargle it in my mouth and then just swallow it, and notice significant improvement once I started doing that. So, these are things we need to be doing. Partially digesting the food before you eat it helps with, puts less strain on your pancreas. Your pancreas is a big producer of enzymes, your digestive enzymes. So if you're eating food that's already pre-digested, it's going to be a lot easier to digest that food. And that's another plus for raw milk. One of the things pasteurization does of any kind of food, heavily cooking the food, that's why I'm a proponent of eating cooked foods and raw foods. But like pasteurizing milk destroys the enzymes. And so that's why raw milk is not mucus forming at all. Pasteurized milk, all of you probably know, when you drink milk or dairy, it's very mucus forming. But that's because that mucus is a response of your body not being able to digest something, or an allergic type reaction, or something toxin in your body. So that raw milk is much easier to digest because all the enzymes are intact to help you digest the casein, the lactose, and the fats that are in there. And when you pasteurize it, you lose that. And so that's an issue. Now some people are just going to be allergic, and I don't know why, but then I've talked to others that once they switched to raw milk, they had no allergies at all, just going to raw milk. But then the other issue, culturing that milk makes it an even bigger issue, or even more advantageous. Immune function, the whole stomach acid thing, regulating the production of stomach acid is going to help. Read multiple testimonies of people getting rid of their acid reflux from eating the cultured vegetables every day. I have no idea. Salt, probably. Sprinkling salt in. You can tell them, don't let me talk, just hit me in. Okay. Okay. Okay, you gonna tell them what you did? Okay.
While Mom was explaining all the, science and nutritional information, I was making a lot of noise and shredding and grating and chopping, and so I had my microphone off, but I am going to explain to you what I'm doing over here. We shredded green cabbage, purple cabbage, placed it in this bin, salted it, and then I've been just working it for a while so that I work the salt in. It's going to draw out some of that liquid, some of the water, and that's going to be your brining liquid. It's going to, then we're going to pack it in the crocks, put the weights on top, push them down a little bit, and over a day or two, just by the weight of the weights that go in here, it'll push the water to the top, and you'll end up with a brine on top to protect your vegetables down in the bottom. 5%. As long as you have a 5% salt ratio, then you're good. You can measure it by weight. A teaspoon of salt is 5 grams. 100 milliliters of liquid is what? Is that a cup?
I forget.
It's about a cup. No, half a cup. 100 milliliters is a half a cup to 5 grams of salt, which is a teaspoon. So, teaspoon of salt to every half cup of liquid. The more liquid, vegetables or fruits you're adding, the more liquid you're going to have. So, yes, sir.
I'll tell you.
It's
in that book.
It's in your sauerkraut book. I use a little bit less salt than that. Because I am using the culture powders, you don't need as high a salt
And that
to
tells
protect
you.
it.
That
It does.
gives you the
It has the
recipe, right?
instructions in it. You guys should have it in front of you. I did not. Using these crocks, you don't have to be as careful with salt because we're going to pour water into this trough here. If we can see it, I'll bring it over here. We're going to pack this, pour water in here, and then the domed lid is going to make an airlock so that nothing's getting in there, outside bacteria, because it is such a, like I said, it's longer than 24 or 30 hour ferment. That's when you need salts and you need, protective barriers to keep bad bacteria from growing in there. Yes? Yeah, which I do. We sell weights that come with these. Whey. Yes, you can use whey. You can use whey to culture your vegetables as well.
And there's some recipes in here for that. This is a great little book. Great little book. We'll give you several, from fermenting green beans to beets to cabbage, simple sauerkraut, low salt sauerkraut, or salt-free sauerkraut, and that uses the whey.
And that's the reason I did not give you a exact measurement, pound per measurement. There are endless possibilities and different recipes.
But the basic for the regular traditional salt, it's 12 pounds of cabbage, 4 tablespoons of salt. Okay, and you don't want to use the iodized salt in the store. Okay, you either want to use a pickling salt, but I would use the real salt.
Now, when using the vegetable cultures, that's too much salt. It's not necessary.
And those recipes are in the vegetable culture. What he's doing now is in there.
And I started with a smaller amount of salt because I'm going to use this mixture for both my 3-week sauerkraut and my 10-day. So I'm going to take my portion out that I'm using for my 10-day ferment, then I will resalt it and pack it into the other crock for the 3-week. So, Mom, you got some apples over here for me?
Yes, all but that one I didn't finish.
Okay.
Yeah. I want to make sure I got this crock dry. Because I was just reading, it says it's best if it dries in the sun or dries.
Yeah, I use GSE though, so did you wipe some GSE in there?
Well, I didn't leave it in there.
No, you rinsed it out. I think
Yeah.
it's all right.
Yes. Well, you don't want to and you don't need to. Her question is, can you can your fermented vegetables? You don't need to. I mean, you don't need to. I have some in my refrigerator that's 5 years old. And it's still tasty. Yes. I mean, the Christmas that I gave Brad the crock, we made like 3 batches, yes. Yes, you keep it in the refrigerator. Once it's fermented. You're going to kill those organisms. Yeah, you would kill the organisms. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yes, because that definitely gets over 112, 113 degrees. Pardon me?
You don't need to.
You just don't need to. I mean, you can honestly almost leave it sitting out. I mean, this is, just remember, this is food preservation. I doubt seriously they refrigerated this. I mean, they were eating it.
If it's a space issue, if you have some huge, chest freezer out in the garage, I don't see why you wouldn't. It may affect the texture. It may not be as crunchy when you thaw it out. Yes. How are you going to seal it? Just just put the lid on it.
Yeah, now that might work. That might work. I don't know. I'm not sure. Well, the food saver, there's ones that will attach and will suck the air out of this jar. Yeah. No, you don't want to. I would not put your fermented vegetables in plastic. How can you make
unrefrigerated long-term storage? Sure, make sauerkraut.
Sucking the air out? Possibly. Yeah. Not on your acid foods. Botulism should not be a problem on your acid foods.
There you go.
Right. Yeah.
There you go.
But botulism doesn't typically have an odor or a smell or anything like that. That's what's so detrimental. But these are your high acid foods. You've acid fermented these, and botulism is not an issue with your high acid foods. Okay? That shouldn't, and that just shouldn't be a problem, because that's what's here is this good organisms. That shouldn't be a problem. Yes. Yeah, I'm not kidding you. That's what we did. The last batch that we made, we just ate out of the crock for months at a time. If you keep the liquid here where you form this seal, it's just not going to spoil, especially if you can keep it in a basement or keep it. I kept mine by our front door because there was a draft coming under the door. It's always really cool right there, and I just kept it right there. We don't use our front door, and so. Not really. Nope. Nope. And it was months. Yes. Everything smells like kimchi. Yeah, that's what everybody here's been a little bit like Caleb. What's the smell coming from back there? Yeah. Now, is this technically kimchi or no?
No.
Okay.
What's the word for dog in Chinese?
Yeah.
Is it a dog? Yeah.
Okay.
It's fermented cabbage. They traditionally add spices, and it's usually a spicy, fermented cabbage. Shrimp and fish and all kinds of stuff to it. Yes.
But the little, this little book. It has, it's even got recipes for fermenting pumpkin, fermenting the green beans. Yeah, it's even got fermented cabbage. There's that. Pumpkin and squash, cucumbers, lactic acid, fermented cucumbers. Ooh, that sounds really good. It's got the cucumbers, onions, garlic, horseradish, mustard seeds, fresh dill. Lots of fresh dill, it says. Fresh tarragon, coriander. So that's
there's
that.
endless
Carrots. Here's carrots.
Recipes, combinations.
Don't hold back on the onions. It says salt to cabbage ratio: 1 teaspoon to 1 pound of cabbage. 4 tablespoons to 12 pounds of cabbage. 1 tablespoon to 5 quarts of cabbage. So it's giving you several ways of looking at it. 25 milliliters of salt to 5 liters of cabbage. All right? So it's basically 1 teaspoon of salt to 1 pound of cabbage. Is that right?
All right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because there's
Yeah, that's
3
great.
teaspoons and a tablespoon.
Did you?
Yes, ma'am. Oh, yeah, if you don't totally fill this, oh, yeah, you don't have to fill this all the way up. No, it's fine. Yeah. Yeah, you don't have to fill it all the way to the top. And, you know, the thing is, you know, be careful getting crocks, you know where they come from. You want to make sure they don't have lead, the lead glaze, and these do not. So these, I loved finding these. The one I got for Brad was very, very, very expensive, and these are made in Poland and much more reasonably priced than the original makers, the Crocs. Let me.
$69.95 for the 5 liter, and I think $99 for the 10 liter. They're very reasonably
very
priced.
reasonably priced. And then the weights, you need to get the weights, which let me go get you a weight.
Yeah, I need the 5 liter.
Okay.
If you can get me the 5 liter weights.
No, you buy them separately, but they're not that much. Hang on.
Yeah, I think. Sorry? Yes, it's the only color. I'm sorry. We don't have red to match your car. Yes. Okay. What I have in here is purple cabbage, green cabbage, apples, and red onions, and salt. And I'm sorry. They were organic. No, they weren't.
No.
They weren't Granny Smith. They look kind of like Pink Ladies. They taste kind of like Pink Ladies. So, I don't remember. I had a hard enough time. Yeah. What's that? Yeah.
Granny Smith, yeah.
And once again, there's all kinds of. This is coming from your directions for the veggie cultures. That's kamut. That's the kamut salad. Your instructions for the veggie culture. It gives a suggestion there.
This page, how to make cultured vegetables. This page.
And like I said, anything you want to put in here. But what I have in this tub right now is green cabbage, purple cabbage, onions, and apples. I'm going to use half of this in this one crock, and this is going to be my 3-week ferment with no culture in it. And then after that, I'm going to add some other stuff to it. Now, once I added the salt, you saw me up here working at this for a while, and the reason is you need to draw out some of that liquid, that water, okay? Because that is going to become your brining liquid. We're going to do that in a minute. This is my 3-week ferment with no culture in it.
Do these need to be rinsed off?
Huh?
Water?
Yes, please.
These are your weights. They're $10.99 for the 5 liter weights. Okay. I'm gonna go. Yeah, there's 2 of them. It's 2 of them for $10.99. Are we losing y'all? You okay?
It's not real necessary. If there's a little bit in there, it's going to be the same there that's going to stay in there. And then you're also, by weighting it down, it's going to push the liquid to the top. It's going to be submerged, protected, and like I said, and by putting the water in the trough here and sealing it, there's no additional bacteria going to continue to get in there. So yes. Yeah. You really need to pack it in there, and you may even need to add some additional liquid to it after a few days because it's gonna fluff back up a little bit. Or what I did is I used Mom found it, that big gallon mason jar somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
With a wide mouth on it. Yeah. And I used a plate and then a quart jar. I put the plate on top, the quart jar full of water, pressed it down and put the lid on it, and that kept it submerged. The Publix right down the street has them. The Kroger out in Hickory Flat has every size and shape you can think of also. Yeah, she was asking if you can do it, in mason jars and what the difference would be. Yeah, you just need to keep that submerged. You may need to add some extra liquid to it. You can put a plate on top of it, and then I used a smaller jar to press the plate down full of water, and then I put the cap on top to keep it submerged.
The plate's got to be small enough to go inside the jar. You've got to put a weight on this because you've got to keep those vegetables submerged under the liquid. This is, you can't really see it right now.
I showed it to him. I squeezed
but
it out.
It's full of liquid, and when you weight that down, then it pushes the liquid out, and you need to bring that liquid up above. So that's why you use the weights. Okay, so that's what gets a little tricky. Doing it in some other kind of container, you just got to get creative. You can, but like I said, when we researched the crocks, and it was multiple sites was just raving about the crock, using the crock, that there was no scum, no issues.
Is so different. The texture, the crunchiness, and you can keep them in here longer. I think they're worth it. They're wonderful.
Once your 7 days are up, you still leave it in there while you're eating?
You can, like he was saying.
Not for the.
Oh, not for the vegetables.
No,
I'm sorry.
I'm making two different ones. Yeah, we'll take out what she's about to serve y'all. Is the 10-day culture with the vegetable culture. You don't want to go more than about 10 days with the veggie culture.
You need to take it out and refrigerate it.
No, you're adding, how many different strains of organism?
Whole lot.
More than 10.
1, 2. Well, yeah, some of it's got like 5 listed here, but I think those are.
And then there's 2 in cabbage naturally, and. If it's the 3-week, yes. After the 10 days, if you put it in your refrigerator, no. Every once in a while to keep them from drying out on top, like I've got my jars over here or right here. See, you got some on top. Every once in a while. Now this I did 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, a month ago. And this is the 10-day, culture with the veggie culture. In the refrigerator, sometimes I'll turn them upside down just to keep whatever's on top. Because I made, 5 or 6 jars of this. And I'll go through it one jar at a time. You only need a few bites of it. So everyone, no, it's fine at that point. Once it's in the refrigerator.
Once it's in the refrigerator, you're okay there.
Okay. So I've packed this into here.
And that's your regular one.
Mm-hmm. No. I'm sorry. This is the 3-week one.
Right. Okay. This is
no veggie culture in here added. This is just the cabbage. I'm relying on the salt and the bacteria in the cabbage to do its thing. Place the weights down inside here. See that? Okay.
Now, do you add any liquid there? No.
Don't need to. Just press it down with your fist a little bit. Some of the liquid's going to rise to the top. No, it doesn't matter. You can fill it up all the way if you want, or halfway. It hasn't made a difference. Now, I like to take a little bit of grapefruit seed extract. Put just a few drops. I would say 6 or 8 or so. And grapefruit seed extract is a natural disinfectant, antibiotic. Dissolve that in a little bit of the water here. and then this is the water that's going to go in your trough. Okay? Not inside, on the outside. I'm not trying to kill all that good stuff you just put in there. And this is completely food safe. It's not harmful. You can drink it with orange juice or whatever as a supplement or to try to fight off cold or whatever. Put the lid on. Now I know if you could see down in there, it wasn't submerged yet. It was the liquid. As long as you can punch it down and see the liquid kind of come up to the top, you're doing okay, because in about 2 days, as that stuff starts softening and settling and the salt's doing its job a little more, and the weights are going to sink it down, and that water level is going to come up, so it's fine. So I know as tempting as this is to open, just leave it sitting for about 3 weeks or more. To the trough. You do, because this will evaporate, and you're creating an airlock, so you will. And as hot as it is right now, I'm having to add water every day, every other day or so. No, don't open it. No, don't open it. I know it's hard, but don't peek. In the trough. In the rim.
Trough. In the trough. Remember, we're just putting the water here to make the seal. That's going to seal because it's going to start making acid and gases.
See, if you get a closer look at this, there's a trough in the top here, okay, that the rim's sitting in.
But you don't actually take this off.
You just keep pouring the water in.
Just keep putting the water there.
These are 69. No,
Yeah,
leave the lid on.
Just
keep adding
pouring
water.
the water in the trough. Yeah. Well,
You
I
can
don't
just-
know that it will mess it
No,
up,
but
but
it's
you just don't want to.
Yeah. Adding more oxygen, it'll turn brown on you. It won't stay as crunchy. So you'll be rewarded if you just don't peek on it. All right. That is the 3-week sauerkraut that I'm making. Okay? There's no vegetable culture in that. Like I said, you're just relying on the salt and the bacteria that's naturally in the cabbage. So I used about half of that maybe. Here's the rest of it. Now we're going to do our 10-day cultured vegetables using the veggie culture. Okay? Okay. Okay. Ashley's going to go ahead and serve you. If you'll flip to the recipe, there's a kamut salad, kamut pomegranate salad, which...
Okay. This is what we're serving?
Yeah.
Okay.
No.
This is what you just made?
Yes, that's what I just made.
No, this is what you just made.
Yeah, that's what I just made, but this is
what you're serving.
that.
Yeah, but what
Same
you're
thing,
serving.
this is just already finished. No.
Okay.
I did it a little backwards. The reason I did it backwards, I'm sorry, is because I needed to pull out first what I needed and then add the rest of it to this to make so forgive me. What y'all are being served right now is what I'm about to make here. Okay, there's carrots, onions, apples, garlic, daikon radishes, cabbage,
do I need to grate?
and then the veggie culture is going to be in here. Okay, and it's being served on top of the kamut salad. So if you want to go ahead and serve that, and then I'll get this ready. I got them at the Publix out in Hickory Flat. Yes, I did. Now, I came across one that was a little overripe, and I wasn't able to use it, but 3 out of 4 were good. I was rather surprised myself, but...
You smell it? Well, that's why he thought it would be nice paired with the kamut salad,
Yes.
to give it a little more flavor there.
I eat about a half a cup of it just as is. You know, but some people are a little, you know. It depends on the size of your cabbage. You know,
It's about half,
a little more than half.
a little more than half filled. So, and he used 2 heads of cabbage here, right, Caleb? 2 heads of cabbage total here? 3. So, okay, so about a, okay, so about a head and a half. So it'd probably easily hold 2 heads of cabbage. No, he did cook it. He did cook it. It's the pomegranates. That recipe comes from the Ancient Grains Cookbook by Maria Speck. Wonderful, wonderful cookbook. If you don't have that, it's just fabulous. So how do you like it? A little different. Huh? And you, of course, can jazz it up, you know, put some dressing on it, you know, make it as flavorful as you want even after you ferment it. You could squeeze a little agave on it or salad dressing or, yeah.
All right. First, you want to start out. Now, this takes a little time, and I'm not going to completely finish this in front of you guys because I didn't have enough time when I got here this morning, because you need to take some cabbage, which I saved a little piece here, place it in a blender.
Okay, y'all watching?
Take some warm water, not too hot. Oh, will you get me a little sucanat? Or agave. I can use agave. Or either one.
Is that enough? Is that enough? I don't know where all our agave is. Oh, here it is, Caleb.
Is it all over there? Okay.
You want agave or sucanat?
Agave.
And these directions are in their handout.
Yeah,
That's
add about 2-3 tablespoons of agave nectar. What we are making is we're activating your starter. Okay? And it says for best results because so it can sit in this sugary solution, warm solution, and activate for about 4 hours before you dump it onto your vegetables. So a little cabbage, a little sugar. There's different measurements and stuff for different amounts you're doing, but for the amount I'm doing about 3 or 4 tablespoons of agave.
And you've got a package of the culture in there?
And one packet is about enough to do 4 quarts of vegetables. Okay. So we're going to dump the packet of starter in there. This starter, I wouldn't. You may be able to, but it's going to feed off the sugar. And like I said, you don't want to culture stuff like this with the starter powders for more than like 10 days. You may be able to keep it in your refrigerator or freezer. That may be all right. That's just something you're going to have to try. Just pulse that back up. Like I said, that needs to sit out room temperature for about 4 hours to properly activate. So that's the only thing we're not going to do to finish this right now. Where's the box grater?
I think I said it. Let's see.
Yes. As long as it's sealed and not with the veggie culture. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Her question is,
can I use the mixture that I'm going to make here, put it in the crock, and leave it indefinitely? And I said, sure, absolutely. I just wouldn't do it with the veggie culture in it.
the veggie culture is particularly for a 10-day ferment. The sauerkraut,
Yes. Yes.
yes, okay. But the sauerkraut made without added culture is, you pretty much can leave it for a long time. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
How do they start in the gas diet and start with just the liquid from sauerkraut?
Uh-huh.
So can I just, as I'm running out of liquid, can I just keep adding water?
I believe you can. I was reading, sitting here, and sorry, it had been a while. I forgot to take this little book with me, but I was reading, even if you don't have enough liquid come off, that because it does need to be submerged in liquid, that you can make a salt water solution and pour over it so that it stays submerged. So, and it gives you the ratios there. I highly recommend this book for any of y'all that want to do this. I mean, it's just got so much good information in it.
All right, so what I'm going to be adding to this is some carrots. I'm going to end up doing the rest of them, but I'm not going to bore you guys. Do it in front of them. Some daikon radishes, add a really nice little bite to it. Just shred those up, adds a nice color.
Here's even a recipe adding the dates to the sauerkraut. That would give it some sweetness. This is after it's even made. Serving the sauerkraut was that.
I'm going to put a little ginger root in here.
So what are they eating? I mean, what are these microorganisms eating while they're in your sauerkraut? I mean, you think that after a while, just like with sourdough, you have to feed it again. Why don't you have to feed it again?
Let me think on that just a minute.
I mean, doesn't that, I mean, it stands to reason, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'm losing it now. I'm going brain dead. I mean, they're feeding on the sugars, and I'm thinking that it's what's being drawn off in the liquid, because they're not, the food itself is not breaking down. It's staying very crunchy. So I'm thinking it's the liquid that's drawing stuff out of it. I'm going to think on that a minute. Hang on.
That's a really long time to go without feeding a little, that's a colony you've got. That's really
Yeah, but there's a lot of food in there. You know what I'm saying? That's why I'm saying you wouldn't want to add that whole packet to less
And
vegetables.
That's also why I like adding to the sauerkraut that you may make just cabbage and salt. I would see that being more of an issue, but I'm putting apples and carrots, very sweet, sugary fruits and stuff in there. So to let it go for months and months and months, I don't see why it's a problem. All right, did you guys enjoy the Kamut pomegranate salad with the vegetables on top? Okay, that was the 10-day cultured vegetables that we're making here now. I've thrown all this in here. I'm going to mix it together. I'm going to add my culture here in about four hours or so. But now what we made first, the 3-week sauerkraut, I'm about to give you guys now. And I'm going to show y'all. I'm going to take it out of the crock here. It's been in here for 3 weeks. Mom, will you hand me those tongs over there? These work great for pulling your stones out. Y'all can see down in here. No, don't put soap on them. I have been soaking them in some good water, or if you have to use your tap water, then let them air out really good and let all that junk evaporate. I've been adding a little bit of grapefruit seed extract, just a few drops, but then once again, let it evaporate really well and dry out before you start your next batch. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, you can add whatever you want. Sure, you can add whatever you want.
Really, I mean, you really can. You can get. No, before, right?
Before.
Yeah.
Sure, you can add You can add spices to it. You can add herbs to it. Caraway seeds, like she said. You know, what is the berries? Pickling.
Juniper berries?
Juniper berries and cloves and all kinds of stuff. I just did a very basic one today. No, you can do it. You do it while it's fermenting. No, I've heard people doing squash.
In here, there's all kinds of things in this little book.
You can do pretty much anything. I haven't done enough different stuff to know what kind of flavor I was going to end up with. So I stayed pretty simple. And now I'm going to dump this out here into a bowl, pack it into jars, and put it in the refrigerator.
I think so.
It was covering the top with the weights. Yeah. I'm not going to squeeze it out of this for you because I don't want to get purple all over my hands, but there is quite a bit of liquid. Now, like I said, it's 3 weeks old. You don't have to take it out of the crock now, but I'm going to pack it into jars. I think after 3 weeks it gets a very nice flavor.
That's good.
Now, I am going to add some more salt to this now, right before I eat it. And I actually add a little bit of vinaigrette dressings to it, put it on top of salads. I've been enjoying just like an Italian garlic dressing on top of it with a little bit more salt. As long as, like, once again, as long as you're adding this stuff to it and eating it right away,
Yeah.
I think you're fine. But to store it in the jars, I'm going to put it right into the jars, store it like this, and then a little bit at a time as I take it out each day and eat it, add a little more salt, add a dressing to it, add something else to it to, change it up.
And like I said, that little book has all kinds of serving ideas for the sauerkraut. But, okay, you ready for this to be served just like this?
Here. I'll take it over here.
All right.
It's the salt. You've got the salt.
And this little book has just, the whole first chapter or so is very, very, very full of information. And to answer some of your questions, and now I remember reading this, there's actually a couple of stages to the fermentation process. And the salt actually helps the vegetables from decaying until the lactic acid is formed. And the lactic acid then is what actually preserves the vegetables. So that's why you want all the conditions right. The concentration of salt, the right temperature, the oxygen-free environment, and the pressure on the food. So it all plays a part. So you just got to get it right. But this makes it very, very simple to get all that right. Okay? Any other questions? Caleb, are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
You're done? Any questions? Okay, we're going to serve this, technically I guess it's sauerkraut. What we're going to serve you now didn't have any culture added. It was just the natural lactic acid ferment. Okay? Anything else? How y'all think Caleb did on his first?
Sure. Sure, they will. They'll just take a little longer and they'll stay crunchier.
Woo-hoo!
Okay.
You missed your applause. Well, I hope you enjoyed the class and that you've gone away with encouragement to really incorporate these foods in your diet. I think you will be amazed. I've also read things about weight loss, just it helping to just balance the whole system by eating these foods. If you're still a little overwhelmed, I highly recommend the Ferm Plus probiotic, which I think we're out of.
No, we're not.
We're not? Okay. This is exactly what they do, is they naturally ferment the food and then dehydrate it and powder it. So it's very different from most probiotics on the market out there. Most of them are your milk-based, and it's just the organisms. This is actually a whole food supplement. You get your enzymes, you get the vitamins, and it's the natural ferment. Huh? That's right. You won't need it. So this is dairy-free, gluten-free. Yep. The phytoberry, yes, it does. It's what?
It's a sweetener too.
Well, no, it has sweetener in it. It's designed to, the phytoberry is designed to just have mixed with water and just drink it for a supplement. Yeah. We put it in the yogurt because then it serves as the sweetener, the flavoring, the fruity, everything. It's a great product. I love this company. They really do their work.
That's something if you were storing, like if you made a large amount of yogurt, like we did with a big pot, you could run away and mix that in as you're
Absolutely. Mix it in when you're ready to serve it. Yep.
store it plain.
Yes, store it plain.
Is this a sweetener here?
Agave nectar is a sweetener. Yes. And it's nice. I mean, it's a little more simple sugar and a little more processed. I love honey as a sweetener, but you do have to be careful with using the honey because it'll kill the organisms. But
Is that the strawberry?
that one's the plain one. The strawberry it's one of the syrups.
what
It's
she
on
used
this
for
wall here. Yeah. So.
Where was your daughter dancing?
She